The water rate study that Ty and Bond did, this is a public document as well. This is on the town website. It goes through it. The video actually has the gentleman who did or presented the water rate. He explained the effects of it to individual people and stuff like that. If we look at it, the big outlier for us that we had to kind of come into play with is the PFAS water treatment plant. We are in line for it. The SRF loan is for $14.9 million currently. The documentation, it was passed at town meeting. The documentation was sent into SRF, which is the state revolving fund, which you get the loan for. This was set up, the tiered rate system was set up for the worst case possibility of us not getting any money. Keep in mind, PFAS treatment under SRF will be 0% interest and a certain amount of principal forgiveness. The last number we saw was roughly 30% principal forgiveness. Or maybe, say again?
46.2.
46.2. So those are the numbers we're looking at. So the number that we borrow, that amount will be forgiven and the rest will be at 0% interest. But to set the budget, they had to take it as a worst case scenario. The rest of it is, like I said, a system needs update and maintenance. State requires at a minimum a 10-year capital improvement plan, means water main replacement, well upgrades, things like that. And that's something that has to get set into the state. You look at, we operate off a water enterprise account, so the money that we take in is solely what we operate off of. You don't operate off any tax dollars or anything like that. What I wanted to show you, and this is what was given as an idea of where our water rates would take care of. If we didn't make any changes, that green line is where we would be, and our costs are at the top of each one of those. The blue is your operating costs. The red is the capital outlay and the capital improvement plan. The black, the gray is existing debt service, and the black is the new debt service. As you can see, if we had kept the rate as it existed, we would not have been able to meet our financial obligations, and we're required to. This gives us an idea, and this was all at worst case. We're not that way at the full amount. So like I said, this was the worst case if we got no money back and they were going to charge us 2% interest is what your SRF normally charges. So which one is this? If we had gone off the existing rate structure and had done a rate increase on that, the cost to everyone, top to bottom, would have been dramatic, as much as 50%. So we're looking, I think I went backwards. Sorry. All right. Sorry, first time using this computer. Hold on. This is where I want to be. All right, so for low water uses, people, so you have to keep in mind, water conservation standard the state sets a limit of gallons per person per day that they're supposed to meet. And that's 65 gallons per person per day. So if you were doing a calculation, that's what you're supposed to calculate off of. So two people, 65 gallons per day, that's what this one is based on. The actual change in their water bills isn't, it's there, but it's $20 to $30. And I wish more people had been online with us when we presented at the Board of Selectmen, because the one who was presenting, he could type in your usage and tell you what your water bill would have been. Now, for the moderate users, family of four, the numbers go up a little bit more, but not substantially. You're still right around $20. Now, listen, there are families that are larger, and I understand that. One of them's my friend, and she quite regularly tells me what her water bill is. But she knew that she actually had took part in that, so she kind of was prepared for it. The ones that really see the change are the ones that the high users. Anyone that extensively irrigated their lawn in the summertime, the bills are in the $2,000 or $2,000 to $5,000 range, depending on the usage you use. Now, keep in mind, our units are cubic feet. Our bill is based on 100 cubic feet. If you want to change that into gallons, 100 cubic feet is equal to 750 gallons. So that's what the meter reads cubic feet, so that's what we bill off of, but the conversion is 750 gallons per 100 cubic feet. So that is the end of my basic presentation. Probably wasn't as good. It was as best as I could do on short notice. I will, hold on. I need to give back to, hold on. Come on. Where are you? Brenda, I'm giving control back to you, okay? We're make host. Yes, you are the host now. So now how do I make this?
I'm sure you all have questions about Mr. Melanson's presentation. Let's just wait until section, if you can, just write your question down. And it's going to fit right into the appointments.
Try. All right. So now, approve 5.1, approve meeting minutes of August 15th, 2022.
Todd, we're still looking at the shared.
All right, hold on.
I'm up on the agenda and I have questions on this. So instead of you going back and forth to it, if you just want to keep it there, that's fine with me.
No, I can't see anybody if I do that. So come on, stop share. There it is.
No,
There we go.
There we go.
All right. Let's get through the other things and then we'll get to the questions. Let me see. Approved meeting minutes of August 15th and September 19th. Nate, I'm okay with them. How about you? Did you get a chance to review them?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the meeting minutes. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. No. I had August 15th. What, didn't we approve August 15th last meeting?
No, I made a change to it. We were
There
gonna.
was a change and it has been updated.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve meeting minutes of August 15th, 2022 and September 19th, 2022.
Seconded by myself. Roll call vote. Todd Melanson, aye.
Nathan Madela, aye.
Thank you. 6.1, review correspondence. So we are, where did those go?
Yeah,
Is
I'm not
that,
showing a 6.1 in the meeting
It's
packet.
1.6.
1.6. Sorry, I switched the numbers again.
That's okay. I messed up too.
That would that be Mr. Considine's?
That is Mr. Barakowski from 13 Proctor Road that sent you a letter or sent you a note.
Sorry, I'm working off of two different computers.
I'm a little curious. David, did you speak with this gentleman?
Which one?
1.6, Conrad Baranowski, 13 Proctor Road.
Right, he said, the letter basically said, that he sent to me and Todd, basically said that cleaning out the tank helped.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. The water, he was the gentleman that had some water issues. He's connected before the main step down from one to another, if I remember correctly.
Right.
We're going to look at moving that in the near future, but we asked him if he would, clean out his,
Hot water tank.
hot water tank, and it seems to have done the trick so he said water tank was flushed. Result was there was some minor manganese and zero sediment. The filter up front did its job, preventing any silt. And thanks, he said, thanks for scrubbing the tank on Highland Ave. That was something else the guys did. We did that in-house, was cleaning the tank. But anyways, is there any other correspondence, Brenda? I don't see any.
No,
All right. So let's do. Come on.
one is 2.1.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to call it up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
In 1.6, we also do have a section for public comments if anybody wishes to make one. It seems a little out of place.
Yeah, I know. I thought we have the.
It's there, though.
All right.
Yeah.
Can you hold on 1 second, please? All right. Sorry about that. All right. I'm trying to call it up and it's not working. There we go.
And I will remind everybody, while Todd's getting things together, we're going to keep the format, call one at a time. Please state your name and where you're from. We can keep order easy for the people transcribing the minutes.
All right.
And if you're not speaking, please do mute because we are getting some background noise coming through.
All right, here we go. All right. We'll open for public comment. Try and keep your statements brief. I'd like to keep because we do have a section in here for town residents to discuss the water rates. If those are your discussion points, I'd like to keep that until 2.2. But we'll open it up. If you raise your hand, we'll take you in turn. So we'll start with open comment. If anyone has anything other than the water rates that they wanted to discuss, please raise your hand.
I know, Raposa, you had your hand up before when Todd was doing his presentation. You'd like to go first.
Yes, I can either ask it now or ask it when I have my questions there. But I knew you flew through a lot of information in your presentation there. So I was going to ask you specifically on slide 15 to really explain what you're even showing for data. What does the chart show? What's the graph show?
It's a summary of all the information that Ty and Bond put together. Okay. In fact, if we can, I think that is online.
Okay.
And we can get a written explanation of it. Basically, it showed,
Maybe
where,
if you step through it, it would actually make sense rather than
Yeah.
just talking to it.
I wish I could have gotten Ty and Bond on here, because that they were better at explaining it. And it is fully explained in the video. When we presented to the Board of Selectmen, he was there and he explained it in full. But if on 15, you're looking at the summer usage, the number of bills that would potentially be affected.
Maybe can you show it while you're explaining it?
That gets into sharing the screen again, and I'm not sure I want to get into doing that again. It just shows how far out, or the usage on the bottom is the biggest one, I guess. And the projected percent of people that we're going to use in the thousands of cubic feet, were minimal, and those were the ones that would be the most impacted, I guess is the best way to put it.
When you say minimal, how many customers?
It looks, if I'm looking at the graph, it's less than 10%, less than 5% of our total usages.
So what does that mean? Less than
So-
10
so-
to
so-
5%
so for the-
of your customers are going to receive less than a
No, they're
giant
gonna,
increase?
no. Yeah, the 5%, the 5 to 10% are the ones that are gonna receive the highest bill, and the rest of the population will receive less than, so when we were looking at it and the graph had, columns on the left that were high, those bills were gonna be the least affected because their usages were all in the 500 to say 3,000 cubic foot range. When you get beyond that, the middle of it, as it starts to slope down, those are the moderate use ones. And then the ones that are barely visible are the higher users. And so if you look at those, it's, I think they went as high as 10,000 cubic feet. Those look like 1 to 2%. If you go back to 6%, you're probably at about 10%, right around 10% of all of our users are what
So
they can,
okay, so 10% of your users would see
higher than,
what
if-
percent increase in their bill?
depends on their usage, really. It's hard to take this percentage or projection and put it to your individual use. The best way to look at it is the impact is each one of those tiers. Like if you make it the fourth tier, that whole volume isn't charged at that amount. It breaks it up into the individual tiers. So, I mean, it all depends. It depends on the type of season you have. If you have and this is based off the average weather, where we had a drought and it was extremely dry. If you use your irrigation system a lot, your bill was going to be a lot higher than that. We have some that used in the terms of 17,000 cubic feet. Now, if you do the math, if you divide that by 100, that's 170 cubic feet. If you multiply that by 750 gallons, that's on the order of 135,000 gallons of water in 1 quarter. Where your normal summer usage, if you do 65 gallons per person, you're looking at 2,000 or 3,000 cubic feet.
So what percent? So you're saying 10% of your customers,
Yep.
What do you deem a large increase?
Well, if you used over 10,000 cubic feet, you're probably going to see a 3-fold increase in your bill.
So your study showed that it's okay for 10% of your customers to see a 300-fold increase in their bill. And that's economically okay.
It's what the tiered rate system is supposed to do. It's supposed to engender water conservation, which is something we have to meet. And the individual has control over their water bill on how much they use. We were in a drought. It was our region was in a drought level 3. We adhered to what is in our permit. But technically in a drought, if you go by their guidelines, they said no outdoor water usage. So like I said, the individual has control over their bill. And if you use the water to irrigate your lawn or whatever, then that's what the tiered system is supposed to capture, because the affordability over the whole of the population is geared to protecting the people at the other end, not at the higher end.
I will defer my other questions until I get my time in section 2.1.
All right, good enough. Anybody have any question other than a water rate question? Let's see. Water. Dot, I see a question on the chat, and Dot's asking, can I provide the conservation rate again? I'm not sure what that means. The conservation rate, that's our tiered system. So if you go on the website, it should be on there. I don't have it on my computer to share. Please let me in on my other device. Tyler, are you in? I see.
I am on my iPhone, and I want to be able to see you.
All right. So you'd have to get out off your iPad and come in on your other device, and then you'll be let in.
I believe I'm in.
Okay, good enough.
Thanks.
Oh, conversion rate. So I didn't have it written down, but the conversion rate is 100 cubic feet is equal to, good enough. 100, so 1 cubic foot is 7.5 gallons. We measure in 100, or we bill in 100 cubic foot, so that's 750 gallons. Okay? All right. I don't see any other hands raised, so I'll assume everybody else is on water rates or other things like that. So we will go to 2.1, Karen Raposa, communication methods in relation to rate increases.
All right, so I did get your letter here.
Mhm.
Back on my other
Mhm.
earlier spring tag there. I think what you float out is misleading and deceptive with it. So as someone has to ask for the conversion rate, do you expect the layman to be able to know that, hey, it's supposed to be 7.48, do the math, multiply by 100, divide by 100, get your gallons there and go, hey, look, I'm supposed to know what my bill comes to?
No. Well, let me answer it. We don't bill in gallons. I was just trying to make that conversion so people understood the volumes we're talking about. We bill in cubic feet. So the rates are set up in that because that's what the meters read in. It's not deceptive.
Is that what the old meters and the new meters read at?
Yep. There were a few that read in gallons. So we had 2 different systems. The majority read in cubic feet. So the decision was made to make everything in cubic feet because it would have cost us more to buy more meters to get to get everyone on the gallons. Keep in mind, we have to report 2 things to the state in water conservation. Okay, one is the residential per capita, which is the gallons per person per day, and we have to average 65 gallons per person or less, or we are out of compliance. The other one is unaccounted for water. Basically, just like your home, everything we have is meter. We have to add it up. You add up everything that's billed, and if there's a deficit, that's what's called unaccounted for water. The state allows you to have a percentage of 10% or less, or if you're above 10%, you're out of compliance. We were at 33%. So we had a mandate to start changing out meters. Meters do not speed up. They slow down over a period of time. So they don't accurately record the amount of water that's being used. It's usually one of the quickest ways to start to bring down your unaccounted for losses is get more accurate meters. Actually, the standard on water conservation, if you go on to mass.gov and you Google or you search for water conservation standards, the water conservation standard says that water meters need to be replaced every 10 years. And you're supposed to have a continuous cycle of changing meters out. That was the decision we made because financially we couldn't afford to change the vast majority over to gallons. I understand the confusion on it, but it was not deceptive. You have always been billed for the most part in cubic feet, and that's what the bill is based off of. What I wanted to show when I made that conversion was the actual volumes, what we're talking about in a more easily understandable term. But you are billed on by the 100 cubic foot. And it's not done by hand. It goes into a computer. I will also say the Ty and Bond rate study, Ty and Bond is known nationally for doing these rate studies. They were it's not something, we didn't want to choose this willy-nilly. We wanted to have something back it up. We wanted to have someone go through our financials, look at them, look what we had coming in, and where our rates would put us, the current rates, and what was best for the community. So that's what we did. And again, I can't stress it enough. You have the ability to control your own bill by the
Okay,
amount you
I
use.
understand that. That's fine.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying the message that you sent out is very deceptive because generally looking at it, you would think, hey, I'm going to see a 20% increase in my bill because your main unit charge went up 20%, the tier 1 rate went up 20%. So that's fine with it. And you tagged it onto a March bill to know what the water rate is then. I don't know about most people, but I don't readily keep my water bills available to know, hey, what did I spend last summer? But looking at it, my bill was $267. So I'm like, hey, all right, so it's going to be a 20% increase. Where now this year, my bill came in over like $500. So to know your messaging on your forms that you send out, I think would have been much better understood. You wouldn't be in the position you're in now if you just added information into the bill that said, hey, for example, if you spend the same amount of water as you did last year, please know that your rough estimate of bill is going to be this amount. It doesn't say anything about how much water you're using with it, what the tiered approach actually does with it. As a single homeowner, it's like, well, how could you possibly spend so much water there? So I think it's deceptive. I think you could have included a lot more information in it. The whole math with the gallon usage, someone needs to be a math wizard to understand that.
I will stop you there. Again, the conversion to gallons was just for perception. It has nothing to do with the billing. It really and truly doesn't, because you are billed off 100 cubic feet.
The old meter and the new meter?
Some of them, yes. There wasn't a large majority that were in gallons. I don't know the numbers, but the majority of our meters have always read by the 100 cubic foot.
The new bills that came out, they do not have any units of measure on them. It doesn't say whether they're in gallons. It doesn't say whether it's in
I think it says
100 cubic
CF.
feet.
I think it says CF.
No, it does not.
Because I read a printout of one this afternoon.
It says
And-
what the rate information is, but it
So if I'm
doesn't say
looking
what
at-
the usage is.
Hold on one second, because I have it up, one of them up. Hold on one second. Because I was looking at a printout of the bill. Brenda, are you on?
Yes.
The bills, when we print them out, it says what the unit of measure on them is, doesn't it?
I can't tell to be sure because I haven't seen the bills yet. I haven't even my own yet.
I can show
They
you.
all,
Dave?
they all do.
Okay.
Where? Can you point out where?
Is that the letter that we put in with the bill?
No, on the bill itself, Dave, does it say
But we also
cubic feet?
Send a letter out also.
Okay, but she asked about the bill, Dave. On the bill itself,
I don't have one in front of me. But
hold
the-
on, I just,
one of the-
I have
Go ahead.
one in front of me. Yeah, I have one in front of me, and the old bills, absolutely. I have every bill since the year 2000, and they were clearly marked prior to that in the last 21 years. And the new ones that came out, it just says usage summary, total usage, and it gives a number. That number is not identified in any unit. So
all right, so we did
this
change
proposal
billing.
is incorrect.
So, all right, so we did change billing systems. So what I will ask Dave and Brenda to do, because I wasn't aware of that. Dave, you need to make Vadar make that change so that the
It
unit
does.
of,
I'm telling you, it does. It's on, under units.
all right, because I don't,
I'm looking at one right now that was in the trash. Someone had brought it by today. I had to piece it together. And under total usage, it doesn't say if it's cubic feet. or not.
correct. Yeah.
It just-
all right,
The,
so-
So I
the
don't know. I
only
didn't think I have one, but I remembered someone came in earlier today and I'm at the office. So
Yep,
I-
It's
The,
units.
the only place on the bill that actually mentions any type of unit is under the rate information, and that lists per cubic feet. Everything else is
it should
unlinked.
be 100 cubic feet, not cubic feet.
yes, but
there-
it
It's
does-
per
it does
cubic
not-
foot.
What?
It's per cubic feet. It's not per
Yeah.
100.
All right,
Correct.
so that
Folks,
needs to be correct.
I know, folks, I know we got a lot going on here. We're trying to get to the bottom of things, but please, let's keep a format of one person talking at a time. State who you are and where you're from.
All right, thank you, Nate. All right,
Okay, so my other questions with that is, I think it would have been much, much better understood by the public if you had put an example in there to so understand that, yes, with our rate increases, if you were to use the same amount of water as you had like last summer, here's what you can expect for a bill. Because maybe other people do, but like I said, I have no recollection of how many cubic feet or gallons of water I had used to expect what for a billing option there.
listen, Karen, well, I'm sorry, I'm not sure your first name. I apologize. And I'm really bad with names. What I will say is I understand that. We always can do better. Some of it I didn't realize, but I will also say that the town has been good about keeping and boosting up that presentation, the videotape of it. And it did go over that. And it calculated out what different people's bills, if you used X amount of cubic feet, what your bill would be. We do get limits on how much we can mail out. There is a significant cost to that on us. So I respect what you're saying. We will endeavor to do much better in the future. But I do think and I appreciate you bringing up the change in the bill. I didn't realize that it wasn't putting the unit of measure on there, and it should. But it is under it, on the bill, it should have what the tiered rates are, and that the unit of measure should be on that. If it isn't, let me know. But so
So-
that, what else do you have what
A
else,
couple
Karen?
other comments there. I think
Mhm.
it's also very deceiving on the letter that you put out to note that the plant should be completed in approximately 2 years. There's no listing on the rate increase to say that, hey, you can expect to pay this for the next 30 years is what it appears to be with
Well,
it.
the rate is set. So there's two ways you could have done it, specifically with the plant. You could have built it into the rate structure, okay? Or you can do what they call a bond debt fee. That was by tie-in bonds, not considered because it actually would have made the bills on the affordability index, from what I understood from the presentation, outside of that low to moderate impact on the general population. So that was.
Can you quantify low and moderate?
What it, on the graph, what we showed, anything, that was above, no, I'm not remembering it right. So long as it
guess I'm
did
thinking
90%. So if you're affecting more than 10% of your population, then you start to get out of that moderate to low impact. So if you start affecting 20% of your population, 30%, you make it into the moderate to high. And then if you're affecting anything over, and I'm just spitballing because I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but when you get into affecting more than 40% to 50% of your population, you're on the other end of being a high impact. We chose the thing that affected the least amount of people so that the impact would be.
Okay, understood. So if I'm reading you correctly, then you're saying that you chose the rate structure where you're not really going to impact 10% of the population.
90%. So we're basically affecting 10% of the population. The majority of the population isn't, the impact on it is moderate to low. The 10%, the impact would be is going to be higher. But it doesn't get into the percentage of the impact, but that percentage of the population impact is what they focus on.
So do you have the percent of the impact to go 90% of your customers received an average or saw an average of 20% of an increase?
10 to 20.
So 90%.
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I'm just guessing at this point.
So what you're saying is 90% of your customers saw a no more than 20% increase in their bills.
So depending on their usage, yeah,
That's
some of the, Dave, what did you say?
That is correct.
Okay.
Less than 10%.
So less than 10% saw a major impact of more than 20% of their bill.
Okay, so you sent out the most recent bills with it to know who pays what. So did your assumption of what the numbers were actually line up to what people's bills were?
Dave?
Yes, and we've also played that rate study twice. Once in February, once in March. Online, in 2 different meetings.
And I think it is on, Chaz, correct me if I'm wrong, is the town's TV channel has it as well, correct?
It's
I know as far as what the presentation from Tigan Bond.
Yes.
I
It's
think
not,
you're missing my question though. My question is, everyone just got their recent bills with it. Did the actuals of what people actually saw for bills, did it show that less than 10% of your customers received more than a 20% increase? And I guess that would be compared to where they had it on, like before the rate structure.
From what Dave said, yes, it did bear out. And I've gone around in Timberley Park. I've talked to people that I know in town and stuff, and a majority saw a $20 to $30 increase in their bill. And the ones that we have seen have used what I would consider excessive amounts of water through the summer. A better way to see to what your bill is what I would ask you to do is ask the staff to tell you what your usage was in the winter time. They can kind of give you a rough estimate of what your bill will be in the winter, and you'll see the differences. But for that, I don't, you know,
Okay,
From what day- from what day- from
I'm
what
gonna
date?
hand the floor to someone else, but I got two other quick questions there.
Mhm.
When are we going to determine how much forgiveness we actually get on our bill with it?
Well, the forgiveness won't be on your bill. Your forgiveness, it'll be determined when the SRF is complete and when we finish the project. That's when we actually, Dave, when do we have to start paying that back? Is it when the project is completed or,
And it's completed.
all right,
And there won't be any, the bills are never gonna go down, but they may not go up.
that's our goal.
that-
And if
that's
you
what-
look at that, because of the increase in operations, the increase in different, costs across the board, that was all factored in, and it's to maintain the sustainability of the system over the long run. So the forgiveness we were talking about is on the loan itself. The hope was when we set that, it was factored in that we wouldn't get, that we would be charged interest on the loan and that we wouldn't get any forgiveness. The forgiveness and the interest-free portion allows us not to increase the rates for a certain period of time. Keep in mind, the state wants you to increase water. We didn't increase rates for 10 years. It was flat for 10 years. If you take 3% per year, 2.5 to 3% cost of living or whatever you want to call it, we're at 30%. We're behind by 30%.
I believe, is that a true statement with those that were on Witches Brook Water?
Pretty much the water rate. When did we buy Witches Brook?
2000,
2006.
2006.
We
Rates
lowered.
have not
we lowered
increased
the-
roughly since 2010, if I'm correct, or
Well, there was-
thereabouts.
about 3 years ago.
Well, 3 years ago. So what we did, we didn't have a rate study. We had one that was done in '08. There were 3 steps. Not all the steps were enacted. At the time, we enacted the very last step from that rate increase rate study from, I think it was 2008, 2007. We took the time, we hired Ty and Bond to do the rate study, and this is the one we got that we agreed to and approved. I get it. I said it in that meeting. If we had any other, now I'll take it on the chin. We should have done a better job of communicating it. I won't deny that. And we will endeavor to do better in that. Any sort of input on that will be greatly appreciated. But we
Okay,
did wait.
I'm gonna end with this. I would just like to see you publish with the latest bills that came out and just bucket it to go, hey, 90% of your customers saw a 20% increase. 10% of your customers saw an average of, I don't know, 100, 200, 300% increase with it. So I would like to actually see the data behind what I think it's Dave said with it to know how many of your customers saw an increase.
David, how easy would that be to pull off of Vadar?
That, what she's asking is almost impossible because everyone's different. You know, it's not that everyone got 20%. And once you get to that 10%, not everyone, some people went up a little bit, some people went up 3 or 4 times. You got to also remember the data isn't accurate for the people who watered because last year in July, it rained all but 3 days.
Okay,
This
I think what I'm asking is,
Yeah, you got to let me finish. All right, this July, it rained 0 days. How much did it rain the first 2 weeks of August this year? 0. How much did it rain the first 2 weeks of last August? Every day. And in June, it rained maybe 4 or 5 days. This year, last year, it rained the majority of the month. So you cannot compare one year to the other because it's totally different. And to give that information, it's less than accurate.
Okay, what I'm asking for is not to compare against prior years, using how much water they used this year. If we still had our old rates, what would their bill be? Compared to our new rates, what would our bill be? Because that, in my interpretation, that's where 90% of the people, regardless of how much water they saw, they would only see less than a 20% increase from the previous tier plan to this tier plan.
That would, to do that, I would have to set the computers all back and run the bills all again, and then set it back again. And that is almost impossible.
Then how do you know that 90% of your folks only saw a 20% increase?
It was because not only the people who they irrigated a lot got an increase, because I can see it in the bills and I can see it on the phone calls. And we made phone calls to a lot of people in June when they had an increase. And some of those people did not listen when I told them you might want to cut back.
So,
That could only have been accomplished though if they had the new meter.
Correct.
I just wanted
and that's,
Yeah, that
and
point
we're in
though.
the, so the other part.
All right,
of it
I'm
is-
going to relinquish the floor here, but my only comment is you said that 90% of your customers saw less than a 20% increase. I'm just asking you for the data to validate that.
But,
It's
you
everything's
can't-
online.
So Dave, or
Yep.
I will try and get that information for you, Mr. Reposa. I don't know what the limitations of the system are. That will be the only defining factor. I don't think it's fair to ask the staff to hand calculate all the different accounts to do that. So if we can download it off of Vadar or have Vadar help you, I'd be more than happy to try and accommodate you with that. But I just don't think it's fair to have the staff, the two staff members, try and do that for by
Agree.
hand, to be honest with you.
Karen, I can,
completely
Karen,
agree.
I'll call the billing
Show my face.
software tomorrow and see if they can do that for you. I
Thank you.
don't know, but I'll find out.
Oh,
All right. So we are now at, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman.
Karen was 2.1. Yes, Mr. Madla.
Yeah. So I was one of Karen. I'm sorry. You didn't identify yourself. Raposa, I don't want to assume, said was about the water bill and how the bill is calculated. So I said, you know what, let's look on the Townsend, Mass website. And I'm looking at that now. That needs to be updated. So I would ask that if whoever our webmaster is to get this updated, that would be great. Because there's nothing about a tiered system on here. There's no date. I'm seeing a $37.50 unit charge here still. Like we've been talking about changing this stuff for a long time, amongst other things, and I'm still not seeing it.
Is that the town system or the water? The water.
It's on the Townsend website, and then if you go to the water department, let me see, backtrack here.
It says
Yes, Townsend, Massachusetts. What did I click here? Oh, the water department, and then water bills / payments. And then there's a link that says how my water bill is calculated. This data is old. This needs to be updated. I think that might clear up for the people that are link happy and click happy, like I just was. It'll clear up some of that, at least some of the questions. Yeah, but maybe not all.
So under rates and fees, is that?
And then maybe a bit more transparency, because I look at this stuff all the time. Folks, I've been on the commission. I was on the commission for about 7 years, and last year I was out, and I was written in again. And this, a lot of this, you got 1728 or 17 times 4, and then all these decimal points, and it's cubed. It doesn't make sense to the average person. I'm right there with you.
So Nate, the current rates, if you go on I agree with you on calculating your bill, but if you go to rates and fees on the Townsend website, it does have the current rate fees. The tiered system It also has all the
Fine.
updated fees and stuff, but that I
But
would agree
we
with you.
we
Dave.
have information here that is not, it's not
Correct. Nope, I agree with you on that one. All right. So let me get back to 2.2. Townsend residents discuss water rates. If you can raise your hand, we'll go about one by one.
So, Mr. Sewing, Ryan, Abraham, and Tyler and Bill
Okay,
C
we-
have had their, and as well as Bill Rideout have had their
Yep.
hands up for a long time now. So,
All right.
the chairman will put it on you to take who.
Thank you very much, sir. So why don't we take Ryan first, or excuse me, Tyler.
Please state who you are and where you're from. I don't
Yep.
want to have to say it again.
Nate, I can't see the hands up. I don't know why.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
so state your name and address, please.
My name is Tyler Champagne, and I'm 18 Cedar Circle in Townsend. And I've been logged on since the beginning of this meeting, and I know you guys did a roll call initially. So I just want to know who. So I've talked with Dave on the phone numerous times. He's a superintendent. And from what I understand, there's 3 people on the board. Is that how this works?
Two. Well, there's supposed to be 3. We had one resign. So currently, right now, it's myself, Todd Melanson. I'm chair. I'm in my second term. Nate Madler is the vice chair. He's been on multiple years. He was off for a little bit and he came back on as a write-in candidate in the last election.
Okay. So when it comes to decisions on our bill structure, who casts the vote? How does, what's the,
We do.
just the 3 of you?
Yes, sir. We're
Okay.
an independently elected board. So under that, we are, I guess, have, except for the final signing of like contracts and stuff like that, because it's under the town. But we have sole jurisdiction over the water enterprise account, which is
Okay.
what funds the water department.
So I'm gonna say roughly 6 months ago, you guys probably held a vote, or was that, I remember getting the communication.
Longer than that. It was in
The winter,
the-
no?
the rate. Dave, when was the water rate structure presented at the Board of Selectmen?
Oh, wait, let me go back all the way. So in October, we voted to go to Ty and Bond because we got 3 quotes.
And that was in.
That was the
2020
consultant firm?
That was
Yeah.
October, that was October of last year.
Of 2021.
Right. They presented it to us partially in January and then they did the full one in of this last year. And the same exact one that was presented to the Board of Selectmen in March.
I'm forgetting we're in October, but roughly it went into effect the first quarter.
Went into effect in February.
Okay.
And
So, all right. So, because I think I've had 2 bill cycles through this tiered structure.
that's
Now,
correct.
Todd, when you gave your presentation earlier, you were going off of that mass.gov water pricing. Of course, I did my research before I'm going to come talk to you guys and waste everybody's time. But you made a couple statements that I feel are opinion based. You used the word excessive, and I understand that someone is doing a study and they're calling it excessive, but we talked
Let me ask you a question, okay? How many people are in your household?
4.
All right.
Okay. All right.
So basically when they talk about excessive, it's anything above that 65 gallons per person. And that's state
And that
defined.
number is totally arbitrary. It's just what they come up with, and that's just the number they say, hey, you know what? We think that the average person should use 65 gallons. They don't think.
That's the standard we have to adhere to, though.
Okay, so what they're trying to do is they're looking at a reservoir and they're trying to divide it up by its constituents, and they're trying to break it up.
No,
evenly.
actually, that doesn't have anything to do with it. That's the Water Management Act, and that's what our registered volume is and what our permitted volume is. The breaking up of the watersheds has nothing to do with the water conservation standard. That's based on research put out by EPA, DEP, the American Water Works Association, and all the other entities involved.
I guess my point is that we have we talked about irrigation, excessive.
Well, it's
You have
not
control
even excessive.
Over, you have control over your own bill. That's what you said. You have control over your own bill. And I question, like, what bill do you not have control over? I mean, you control how much you spend at the grocery store and what you pay for in gas and what you drive, and all of these things are market rate set evenly across the board, and they're the same for everybody. And by going to a tiered structure, you're essentially imposing a tax on your top 10% people and asking them to subsidize the remainder of the bill. You talked about if you went to a flat structure that everyone would go up 50%. Good. Everybody goes up evenly. That's how it's that. Even that study, that tie and bond study, I have it pulled up here. There's a section about I moved the agenda window open, but essentially it talks about how a flat rate structure works, and they say it's the most administratively simple to administer. Yep. It's the way Townsend ran for, I don't know, probably longer than I've been alive. And the fact that we got away from that is what I really take issue to.
All right, so here's a couple things that a lot of people don't realize is we're in applying for an SRF loan, you get graded. We would have gotten negative points for not having a tiered rate system because it is not it's supposed to engender water conservation. All right. And you can't compare us to other utilities. You really can't.
I'm not comparing to other utilities, but when
you did.
Goes up, when your gas goes up, do you drive less? Do you conserve less? Do people carpool? Do they take public transportation? The word conservation is being thrown around here as a deterrent. I understand you got to conserve, so you have restrictions, right? You have bands that you can exercise. You have meters that can control if I run or can monitor if I run my sink right now. So with the technology that we have and the ability to monitor, there were towns in Massachusetts that said you can't irrigate this year, no irrigation. Okay.
Yep.
So do I want to see us there? If that's the level that we're out at drought wise, personally, yes, like that, because as long as you're applying the bill fairly across everybody, there's no argument.
I'm going to stop you one thing there. This is an accepted practice across the country. It is what the state wants you to do. All right. It engenders water conservation.
I didn't find
and also anything above using for your household usage, flushing your toilets, shower, eating, cooking. That's your basic needs. Additionally, we are supposed to maintain pressure in the system. Yes, we made a decision to go by what our permit said only, which was what you saw on the sign. We made the decision not to go to a full restriction and let people self-moderate. The town was gracious enough to put on the signboard, drought level 3, reduce outdoor water usage. We didn't mandate it. One, we don't have the staff to enforce it. Two, people had gone through a pandemic. We were going through a drought. We are experiencing system-wide issues because we lost Harbor Trace. We didn't want to be onerous. And quite frankly, we didn't have the staff to enforce it. So yes, we made the decision not to go to a full ban. All right. That full ban is what you're held legally to is what is on your permit. So that people understand this, they broke the watersheds up. They gave each community an allotted volume. That's your registered volume. You're supposed to have that in perpetuity, and it's not supposed to be able to be conditioned. The permit is if you needed an additional source or an additional volume, you got a permit for that. Those are conditions, and that's where they put water restriction conditions and a host of other things on it. On our permit, it says you can make things stricter, but you can't make them less strict than what was on that. We decided to go with that because we, like I said, didn't have the staff to do it. We didn't want to be onerous, and we wanted the system to keep moving so that when the new Main Street well came on, with the quality of water that comes out of there, we were hoping to clear the rest of the system. So, there's a lot more to it. And I will back up. I just want to say something. I've got 35 years experience in water. between the labs and working in a municipality myself. I am on different boards of Mass Waterworks and New England Waterworks. So I understand the impact tiered rate systems have, but I also agree with their principle that it engenders water conservation, that anything you use outside of your house, the state labels doesn't say excessive. They label it as unnecessary. And it says it
Yeah,
on
but-
all their documentation. And we have to abide by the regulations, or, they potentially don't have to give us loans. They don't have to give us, they can actually start to fine us. So
Okay.
there is a host of
So we
things.
put in the restrictions in place. Put in the restrictions you need to in place. Just switch your water billing structure back to what it was, back to uniform. The restrictions part, I understand. You got to do what you got to do to conserve. And if the rate has to go up, people will conserve. If I'm paying, I don't know. Like, just whatever. Just looking at my bill, I know where I landed. I know I was in tier 2, tier 3, probably higher. I'm using the water. I know that. Okay. I'm willing to pay more per gallon, but I'm not willing to subsidize my neighbor's watering. And that's what I feel like is being done. I'm paying for somebody else's water and it's bothering me. You get it? It's flat.
I
even.
get it, but this is what was deemed as the least impact to the community in
Of
general.
course it's least impact. People don't have irrigation, then they're not going to use water. Then there's people that are investing in their property and have irrigation. They're going to use water. And then at the end of the day, they're going to use more water. Hey, I drive a Civic. I got 40 miles to the gallon. What are you driving? I guarantee, what's that? You drive a truck or an SUV?
Yes, sir, I do. I have a Ford
Okay,
Ranger.
so you pay double you require more. You're excessively using fuel compared to me to make the same commute. We go to Hafner's in Townsend. I pay the same per gallon as you pay.
Yes,
It's
sir.
how Townsend has run.
You can't compare. You're comparing gas to water, and you
No, fuel,
cannot.
oil, lumber.
You can't.
everything's
None
a
of those.
limited
Those
resource.
you can't compare those other resources to water because they
Why
don't
not?
have. Because they don't have other priorities. They don't have to do fire protection. Do you have a hydrant on your road?
Yes.
Do you know your home insurance is less because you do against
Well,
people that don't?
My neighbor's house. Yeah, there's a hydrant. Okay.
Right. But so there are things that we have to do that other people don't. They also don't have to keep up with regulations in regards to public health and public safety. So those
Oh,
don't
I get what
factor.
you're
You
saying.
can't.
It's like controlled measures to keep this resource pure. But at the end of the day, it's a limited resource. The state is saying, hey, don't go excessive. It's limited. You cannot use more than this. And I would argue that every resource we have is limited. There's nothing truly unlimited. Food is not unlimited. Oil's not unlimited. Lumber's not unlimited. Everything is supply, demand, market price. There is no tiered system for any of those other resources. So how we moved into this system where we get away from administratively simple, as they word it in that
Yep.
study, they realized they could go, hey, you're going to make the smallest impact, but you're going to take the guys that either have the deepest pockets and you're going to charge them the most because they are trying to make an investment and you're going to grab your budget.
But water.
from them.
See, I'm going to pause you right there. You're
Yeah,
equating investment in your property into water usage.
Well, it is. Why else? Okay, maybe it's an investment into your time, but essentially,
But that's
it's an
not,
upgrade to your property. It costs money to put a system in, and then you want to use it, and that's fine. And you should pay per gallon. And if people don't want to use it, then they should pay per gallon. I understand you guys got a budget to meet, and we have a budget to meet,
Mhm.
and our town needs this
Yes,
this
treatment
done,
plant.
and it's
Yep.
yes, it needs it. And it's a big rate increase. As you talked about, it hasn't gone up since 2006. Well, I'm sorry, it needs to go up. And that's very clear across the board. I understand it's going to impact other people, but things go up and you have to budget accordingly. And to just say, no, I'm just going to make it for the 10% tier to carry the load in no other, like I said, resource does that apply. And it's driving me nuts. It really is. It's like, I can get away with paying $700-800 for water. If that's what it is, that's what it is, because you said you're gonna take the bottom tier and raise it 50%. So I think $5 at the current tier, so you're gonna make it $750. Okay, make it $750.
So
It's
I will
$750.
also say that a flat system does not make you sustainable. It doesn't make you flexible enough to deal with a wet summer.
Okay.
And
Can you add
things
a
like that.
10% variance? Can you add a 10% variance? Can you bump it up another 50 cents on top of it to make yourself sustainable? Go
I guess
with a flat rate that counts for the
Dave,
variance.
let him speak.
But there's something. The state of Massachusetts mandates straight out mandates a tiered system.
At every town, Groton, Mass doesn't run a tiered system.
Yes, they do.
Groton
They
does.
they actually have, well, I'm not sure how they work it, but, hold on
They
one
have-
second.
You know, I
Like
made that
Pepperell-
comment
Pepperell-
uneducated. I made that
Pep-
comment uneducated because I didn't grab anybody from Groton's bill. He's saying
But-
everybody in Massachusetts.
Not
Look at that
everyone,
go-
but as they make improvements to their system, or they have to apply for SRF, the smaller systems have flat rates for systems.
okay.
But if you look at a majority of the larger systems and things like that, yes, they do have tiered rate systems. Pepperell has one. If you take the volumes we're talking about for Townsend and you convert them to Pepperell, they're either the same or higher with their tiered system.
Yeah, it's probably generating. Don't get me wrong. I can read that study and see how it's lucrative. I don't know if you're going to have an excess budget. I know that you have we have a number to meet, and I don't know how this round of billing phased out for everybody. If you guys were way over, way under, right where we want to be, I understand. I can see why the tiered structure is going to get the smallest percent of your population riled up. The majority of the population is getting their bill and they're pleasantly surprised. I got my direct neighbor paid 1/5 of what I paid. That's fine. He hand watered. He did his thing. He uses much less water than I do. But his would have been, had we went to a flat, his probably would have been, it would have been 50% more, and mine would have been, I don't know, maybe $200-300 less. I can't.
So what I will say is the tiered rate system, what they've found is the only way you change a social behavior usually is if there's a monetary attachment to it.
Oh, of course.
The whole
That's
point,
water first.
the home, well, yeah. The whole
there you go.
point of a tiered rate system is to engender water conservation. As I said before, they deem irrigating your lawn an unnecessary use of the water resource. I mean,
Opinion, but all right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Who's
I
it?
would like to, we're kind of going around and round. I want to
Yep.
give other people
I'm
a
gonna
chance,
log
but
off.
I have
Thanks.
one more thing to add. David, you said that it's mandated by the DEP. Is that state DEP or federal?
I sent it to you, and to get any money from the SRF, which is, we're gonna get about $8 million of forgiveness, and the lawsuit, which may be most of the rest of it.
So is that state or is that federal?
State.
Yeah,
It's-
that's what I thought.
It's Mass
Yeah,
DEP.
this is Massachusetts, people.
But
All right,
also,
so here's
no-
what. Hold on, I'm not done. I want to finish my thought. So, folks, we are your elected officials here. Todd and I are the people that you come to when you want to see change, and we're happy to do that. That's why I got into this, because I care about this town. Now, it seems to me that DEP is doing a lot of things that I don't like. They're telling us that this department, this water department, needs to chlorinate its water. So at this point, if a tiered system really is mandated, the thing we got to do is, it's a grassroots effort. We got to start sending them letters. You got to tell Mass DEP that we don't want you telling that our water department how they have to operate. It makes me very, very angry.
Nate, I having been in the industry, I can't disagree with you more. They have primacy, and tiered rate system is not just us. This is national. All right, it's centered to water conservation. So to saying that this is just a state thing or what have you, I have to disagree with you. Both regionally, I would say that this is more and more a norm, but we went off of what the professionals, what we hired them to do, and
Yes.
what they hired us to do for the best of the community. And that's
And
what
from
we
what I
did.
see in that result that they gave you from that mass.gov water guides pricing, I'm reading it. It doesn't say you need to move right to a tiered system. It gives you different options: high uniform water rates, send a strong price signal, seasonal rates, a tiered systems in there. So if Dave is saying everybody's mandated and that's the way the whole state's going to go, then I don't understand why they put out more than one. Well, no, that's just mass adopting that
Right.
as the
And
answer.
it's their guidelines.
And
It's what they want you
from the
to.
research, it's tough to see all the states and how they're operating. I didn't come to the same conclusion that you did, that federally everybody's moving to that system. I think I made my, I got it. Somebody else got to go. Yeah, I don't know how we got away from being uniform and equal to people. I don't appreciate it, and I'm not happy with the current system. But
Okay.
I'll let someone else go. Hey, thanks.
Bill, I'll take you next, please.
Hello, my name is Bill Considine. I live at 5 Walnut Street. Oh,
Mhm.
were you talking, am I up next?
I was going to take Bill right out.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's right. That's right. Bill,
Are we not
I-
going by order of hand raised? 'Cause
I didn't
certainly-
see that. I'm sorry. I can't see the order it was raised, and I apologize. I think Nate mentioned Ryan,
not-
AJ.
I think Ryan was
Not
first.
showing a hand.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Ryan, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Abraham, 10 Fox Run in Townsend, Massachusetts. I've been a town resident here for 21 years. I've heard all of what's been said tonight, and it's quite apparent that really nothing is going to change out of this meeting, but I wanted to at least give you guys a perspective on the 10% that you guys did have in effect, right? I've been in town 21 years. I have data to show my usage, and I'd actually like to show a presentation if I could.
Get it in time to put it on. Ryan, I will say I did get to see it.
I should be sharing now. Can you guys see my screen?
Actually, because it didn't get to us by the time the warrant came out, we can't show it.
Now, hold on a second. Now, are you 100% sure about that, Todd? Because it's just like someone standing in a meeting hall saying, look at this paper, but except everybody can clearly see it.
First of all, he's not listed on the agenda, and it was
I-
only
Well,
received.
he
Oh, wait a
is.
minute,
He
wait a
is
minute.
part of
I'll
the
back
town
up.
residents.
I will back up. Chaz, if this was only just received, first of all,
No,
how does-
I mailed it earlier in the week.
But isn't this just the same as someone standing in a meeting hall being recognized by a board holding something up, saying, hey, everybody, look at this? You know,
Yes,
is there?
it is. It should
All
be
right.
shown.
all right, go
I
ahead.
don't have anything let me just
Go ahead.
go. Yeah,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. All right, so I've been in town 21 years. I have spreadsheets and calculations of my water usage per quarter and everything like that. So all this is backed up by my Excel spreadsheets. Basically, I'm one of your 10% high-end water users, always have been, always will be. I'd just like to say first off that I appreciate everything the water department has ever done for me in town. You guys have some of the best town water in the state of Massachusetts. My friends, family all do that. It tastes great. It has a great pressure. You guys have done a superb job. I have no problem with what you've done. And I think, as you've shown, the water price increases over the last 21 years have been more than fair. When I first moved into town, it was $1.60, went to $1.70, $2.20, $3, and then $4.32. And now with the tiered system, this is where I kind of have a problem, like Tyler did earlier, right? Your new tiering pricing structures essentially are at 100% at $5.18, and then all the way up to 250%, going to $12.96.
Can I ask a quick question, Ryan?
Yep.
We never had a tiered system before, and
Correct.
you're not charged that whole, if you get to the next tier, your whole volume is not charged at that rate. It's only that section.
Yep. I understand that, and you'll see on slide 8, I actually have a 100% breakdown over the last 12 years because you guys have only been doing quarterly billing since 2012. Before that, it was semi-annual. I have a pricing structure of what my bill would have been and what my bill would have been now with the tier structure in each of those years, just to show you the impact that you have.
So I looked
You
at
have
your
one.
presentation, and you had a number in there of 100 gallons. I think that should have been 100 cubic feet. And so I can't see, I don't have it up on my thing. Not this one. go, what's your last one?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay. So if this should be 100 cubic feet, whatever it is.
Well, but the thing is, it's not an accurate. You have it down as 10 cents a gallon. And it actually isn't. It's actually 1 cent a gallon. If you do the math right.
Well, okay. So take the gallons out and put units in. So
Right.
I'm just showing the average cost here on this one is in the light blue what it would have been if you had a standard tier standard pricing, meaning pricing equally across the board, and if you instituted a tiered pricing. So even with all the same, you can see that anywhere with the tiered, everything is more expensive. And this year, especially with the drought, I fully understand that the water fluctuates up and down. And just like the other gentleman said earlier, last year we had a wet July, we had a wet August. That's great. My takes an average, right? So my average is 177. Some years I'm lower than that. Some years I'm higher than that. You know, this year
When you're talking, but here's the problem I see with this. Okay. 177 units and you have it
Yep.
next to a gallons. All right. If you want to do this accurately, hold on.
no, what I'm saying is 100 gallons. I'm saying your units is a
Right. So
you bill me in units. Right.
Which is 100 cubic feet. So this is why I wish we had gone to gallons, but we couldn't afford it. But I don't disagree with it. I guess I haven't had time to really go through the math on it and stuff like that. But again, I can't reiterate enough. If we supply water for basic needs for public health and public safety, means you have clean water that comes
Yeah.
out of your tap. Do you
I
know
understand
if we shut off the water to the house, you have 3 days to get it back on, or Board of Health can come in and deem it uninhabitable because you don't
Correct.
have water to flush.
And again, I have no problem with the job the water commission has done. Like I said, I commend you. You guys have the best water around. What I'm here really complaining about is that, you know, my single Q3 water bill this year was more than my first 7 years of water combined with this near tier system. Right. So if you look at what I paid from 2000 to 2006, this single quarter with your new tiered system and the drought we had was more than that. 7 years of what I paid. It was 353% more than my average yearly total for this single quarter, more than my Townsend property tax. And because of the new tiered system, those of us, you said, in the upper 10% are being charged astronomical price gouging charges.
It's not price gouging. It is what they consider water conservation effort. And I will go
okay.
over it again. I will go over it again. They can penalize you if you don't with the SRF. You get graded on your application. It was another reason we went to the tiered rate system.
Sure.
I just
that has never been a problem prior to this, right? Like I said,
we haven't had to do a loan like this before.
Okay, but if you're in town 21 years and you've been used to paying a particular water bill, and all of a sudden it goes up 350%, how does that make your residents feel, right? It's a monopoly. I don't have a place I can source my water other than you, right? So whatever you put on the bill of the price per unit, price per gallon, price per whatever, I have to pay, right? Just like Tyler said before, he asked you what you drove. In my slide here, exactly. I said, if you have 2 Townsend residents, one who drives a Prius and one drives a Suburban, Mr. Mike's doesn't charge you a different. You can. You absolutely can.
Water has different things. I will be honest with you. Water has different priorities. You cannot compare it to gas. You cannot compare it to electricity, home heating, propane. It is not the same resource. There are not the same attachments to it. If you have a problem with this, I would suggest you take it to the state. But we are abiding by what the state wants us to do so that we can get the funding that helps the community as much as it can. And that gets into the loan forgiveness and the 0% interest in the loan forgiveness.
So the main reason why we're dealing with this is because we have to deal with the contaminated wells. If
Correct.
the wells were not contaminated and we didn't have to do this, then we would be on a standard single tier.
No,
price.
we probably still would have gone to a tiered rate system. But it would in looking at your system, your slide, you got 10 years of water billing with no increases. Where you look at
Yep.
like a 3% increase over 10 years, you're looking at a 30% increase at this point in time.
Correct.
So
And
I
but
understand what you're saying,
It's not a 30% increase. For me, it's an 800% increase. 800%. My water bill this month was multiple thousands of dollars.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question. Going forward, are you going to use less water on your lawn?
Am I going to use less water on my lawn?
Yes. Do you?
It should be my choice, right?
No, actually, the water conservation standard is fairly specific about it. You're supposed to average 65 gallons per person per day. If you use over that, then you push the rest of us over it, and there are certain compliance issues that come into play with that.
Well, for the last 21 years that I've been in town, again, none of this has factored into this since then, right? So again, my concern here is that I've been, like I said, town 2 decades, and how am I supposed to expect an 800% increase here? It doesn't seem that it's fair to the town. So I'll save my piece there. I've heard what you said. I don't expect anything to change and come out of this, but you have to realize that yes, you only impacted the 10%, but you impacted those 10% so much that now I have to figure out where I'm going to get this money to pay my water bill.
What I
Thank
will
you.
say is that we will work with you, and you can do a payment plan, so you don't have to do it all at once. But the system is what it is. Listen, I don't like it any better than we were asked.
The system isn't what it is. The system is what you installed. Before this, the system was what it was. Now you've gone to a tiered system, impacting a large majority of town people like Tyler, myself, and other people who are on this call. You can see that by the number of people who come to the water commission meeting. Let me ask you this question. How many people on a normal average water commissioners meeting do you actually have come in? I'd say zero.
Zero, unless there's an issue. We've had
Right.
it with
But-
Harbor Trace, the residents of Harbor
Sure,
Trace.
but that's a safety issue, right?
But that's no, actually not a safety issue. They're worried about their neighborhood and stuff like that. But I will say, having been present at other meetings and stuff like that, that's pretty much the norm. And you look at any community meeting, whether it be planning, conservation, or whatever, they never get a turnout unless there's something that has impacted them. So I
Correct.
understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But I will, I think we've gone around and around. I do appreciate the presentation. One, you're a lot better at than I am. But we're abiding by what the state is telling us to do. It's also what the rate study picked this out, and it gets into, as I said again,
Well,
the community
again,
affordability, not the individual, but the community affordability index.
and again, I disagree with that, right? So we, as a town, chose one option. And by we, it was the people who we elected as water commissioners chose to go to the tiered system and do it. You could have stayed with the standard system. And that was one of the options presented by Ty and Bond, who my brother works for, who I'm going to go have a little slight word with him tomorrow, jacking my water bill up so much. But this was a choice. And the choice here was to affect 10% and not 90%. But you have to realize that that impact of 10% was massive. And I'm talking massive to that 10% of the people, even though there was only a small percent of 90. If you would have averaged that out, that would probably have been the more correct thing to do, as opposed to what Tyler said. He feels like he's paying for other people, and it should have been a fair
They're not
across.
watering their lawns. See, this is where I have the disconnect. Is most
I'm
of those
paying
people
for other people. The tiered structure would go
Ro-
up $2.50.
Folks, we're not
So-
going to do crosstalk. One person
God,
talking at a time.
Thank you. So I appreciate the time and diligence you did with it, Ryan. Like I said, you know, part of it you've taken out of it is the affordability index for the community in general, not the individual. And that's what the tiered rate system did. Listen, listen, do you think we're happy about having to sit here and it was the best thing for the community to do in the ability to get a loan and what fit in there so that we can get Harbor Trace back up and running? It abides by the guidelines and regulations that are set forth by DEP. Like you said, we've gone around on this. Ryan, I appreciate your time. Appreciate everyone's time. Which bill was first? Do you know, Nate?
Bill Rideout was going to speak next, I believe.
Okay. Bill Rideout, please.
Okay, thanks, Todd. So I'm sort of in a slightly different position because I sort of in the 90% that it didn't really affect. But
Can we
you know,
get
some of the
who you are and where you're from, please? I'm sorry.
yeah, my name is Bill Rideout. I live in 88 South Harbor Road. And as a guy who's been on a lot of town committees, you know, I just want to say that a lot of the, you know, it's really tough to do the kind of job that Todd does. And, you know, I understand people's up being upset, but I also understand that Todd's in a really tough place where he's dealing with this, you know, basically on a volunteer basis. So I appreciate that. I mean, one of the things that I thought is that the fact, you know, back when we used to have a really nice town paper, the Townsend Times, and this kind of stuff went out better. You know, I think the loss of a local paper where people could have known about this water rate, you know, I know it's, you know, yes, you do a town meeting and it doesn't get out as well as if it was in a paper that goes out. And that's a real loss to not only our town, but a lot of towns. I was going to have two questions. Well, one real quick about rates and tiered rates. It's not just the water. I have family across the country. A lot of electric companies do tiered rates. And the idea is that if you have a certain amount of infrastructure, if you need to build more infrastructure for high users, that adds an additional cost that's well beyond the operating costs. And that's sort of why it's not just water, but electricity is often pushed for conservation, and they do these kind of tiered rates. And the idea is generally to reduce the high users from using it so that you won't have all these huge expenses of increasing your infrastructure. I don't know if that's exactly the same case with this, but tiered rates are not that unusual for utilities outside of the water. But my real question to you, Todd, was if you look at our tiered rates compared to any other tiered rates around here, are we in line with them? I mean, that's really the bottom line. Are we, you know, I don't want to be like a Unitil situation where we have just generally higher rates than everybody else. So how do our tiered rates, I saw that Pepperell had tiered rates. How do we compare to like other towns? That's my basic question. Thanks.
Tiered system. They operate a similar system to us. Their tiered system is equal to or a little bit higher than ours. You have to, and you can't compare specific utilities in general. If they don't have a treatment plant or if they're not building a treatment plant, you can't compare them to a utility that is. So utilities of comparable size, dealing with the same sort of infrastructure that has to be built and maintained. Yes, I would say our rate structure puts us in the middle to the top middle of the state. From what I can see, the last study was done, and that should have been on Ty and Bond's thing. And that's something maybe we can ask them for to get for us. But if you compare like to like in utilities where they have and specifically PFAS is even different than like an iron and manganese plant, the actual operational costs on this. And that's kind of what this is trying to take into the rate study tried to take into. You have additional operational costs that don't go along with other treatment plants. Like if when the media gets used up, so like for green sand, you just take it and it gets used as fill somewhere. With PFAS, it has to be whether you use granular activated carbon or the ionic resin, it actually has to be destroyed. And right now there are only three incinerators, excuse me, that get hot enough to destroy this stuff. So there's a whole host of operational costs on the long term that this took into to get. So you have to be careful about comparing. So I would say we are comparable to people that are in the same situation that operates a system of similar size and complexity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Now, Todd, real quick. Now, I know before I got off after my long stint on the board, we talked about a tiered system and we decided not to go with it. And then when I was off, it was changed. Now, we were offered comps from surrounding towns. I'm a little curious to know, seeing as I wasn't there, what towns are we comparable to and how many in the area?
Pepperell was one of them. Westford, because of the type of system they actually have, I want to say, I think Westford has 3 treatment plants, so they're a little bit outside the norm.
Littleton.
Littleton's actually a little bit higher than ours. What?
That's correct.
You can look at the Chelmsford Water District. I think we're on. Actually, I think Chelmsford Water District is higher than ours as well. You look at Lunenburg Water District, but they don't have a treatment plant. They have a really basic system, and they have a lot more industry than we do. So their water usage, their what they consider necessary water usage, is a lot higher than ours.
But they are going up.
Yeah, no, I know they are. Almost all of them are. Let me see. Who else? It's been a year, so I'm having trouble remembering, but I know those were the main ones, and we compare. We are either equal to or slightly less than they are, Nate.
Okay.
And we didn't go to a tiered system, and I will say we had a hearing when we did that first one, when we enacted the last stage of that rate study from 07 or 08. One of the feedbacks we did get was that the people that came to that meeting were looking for a tiered rate system. And Nate, I don't think you were there for that one. I don't remember if you were there when we did that.
I don't believe I was on the board at that time.
No, but that was one of the major feedbacks we got from people at that meeting, that they were upset that there wasn't a tiered system. And we said, look, we did not have the time to do a rate study. We're just taking what was already done and enacting it now to get us by until we can get a rate study done. The tie and bond rate study came in, and we are where we are right now. And that's how we got to here. So, like I said, some of it happened while you were out there. Part of it was driven by the feedback we got at that meeting in, I think, 2020. And the feedback from those people were, why didn't you do a tiered rate system? And like I said, we just enacted what we had at the time until we could get to one. So that's kind of how we got to where we are, Nate.
Right.
All right.
Well, I don't want to slow us down anymore.
Bill C.
Thank you for taking me. My name is Bill Considine. I live at 5 Walnut Street in Timberley Park with my wife for the last 25 years. I got my water bill, and much like some of the other people on here, I was shocked. The total usage on my water bill was 21,344 cubic feet, or 159,635 gallons for my wife and myself. For this last quarter, and the bill was $2,577.93. So I had contacted the water company. I spoke to Misty and Dave and explained my situation. Said that I had gone back on previous bills and my bank statement check registers for the past 32 quarters, 8 years, and the average bill over that 32 quarters was $197. So I said, this doesn't even seem right. And they suggested that they'd send technicians out to check my meter, which they did last Tuesday. Couple young men came out, checked it, said everything looked like it was in order. They recommended that I use this Ion Water app so that I could monitor water use real time, which I did load onto my phone, and it's something like a very useful tool. So Dave agreed to come out to my house on Thursday of last week and inspect the meter, which he did. We took a reading. He had a graduated container. We poured off 7.48 gallons out of the kitchen sink, went down and looked at the meter, and it did in fact register another cubic foot of usage. So I agreed with that. He inspected the plumbing in my house for any obvious leaks and didn't find any. We went out in the yard. I do not have an irrigation system. I have a small raised garden that I've had for 20 years. I hand water it after I come home from work. Haven't changed our watering pattern for since we've been there. And it just, in order for a couple to use that type of water, it would mean that I'd have to run 73 gallons per hour, every hour of every day for 91 days straight. And I told Dave that I wasn't arguing with the analytics or the metrics of the system, how it worked. I just said, as a voice of reason and using common sense, does that even make sense that two people would use that much water over that period of time? And so I'm trying to appeal to you guys to see if you can work with me in some capacity to help me out with this bill. I can't afford to pay this bill. Like I said, I've demonstrated a good, consistent, on-time payment of all my bills. I'm never late, but my bills average $200 a quarter. So it's never been an issue. Now I'm facing a $2,600 water bill for a quarter, and I can't explain what happened. Dave, like I said, he did a thorough inspection, went through everything. I don't have an irrigation system. I saw a last month's meeting where a fella had an irrigation system, had a leak, had an egregious bill. You worked with him and put him into a different tier 1 rating, which dropped his overall bill dramatically. I would ask that you afford me that same opportunity.
So what I will ask you, Bill, we'll take it under consideration. And what I asked maybe is come back at the next month's meeting. But in the interim, so that everybody knows too, the biggest thing that leaks in a house historically is your toilet. It can leak without you hearing it. It can do as much as 300 gallons. I'm not sure if it's a day or an hour. The numbers, I've had so many numbers bouncing around in my head tonight. I apologize. Do you have more than one toilet in your home?
Yes, we do. We have two.
All right. So what I would suggest you do, an easy check, is shut one of them down for a while. I don't mean shut the water off. Stop using it. In the reservoir in the back, okay? Put food coloring in it. Tell your wife it won't stain the toilet bowl, I promise. But put a color in it and then don't use it. The longer you don't use it, the more apt you are going to be able to find if there's a leak. If you come back and check that toilet and the color is in the toilet bowl itself and not in the reservoir in the back, that means your toilet's going. Your toilet is leaking.
Flapper valve.
Yeah, the flapper valve. And what they do is they lose their ability to hold suction. And they continually burp. And it's to the point that you don't hear the water running, but it loses significant amounts of water. So in the interim, I ask that you do that. Shut it down for 2, 3, 4 days, see if it's leaking. And then once that one's done, do the other one. Also, what I would also say is, Dave, does our meters do a leak assessment? Like if it, on like a 15-minute.
He does not have no leak in the last.
Thank you, Dave. No. And the Ion Water app that I did put on my phone actually tells me there is no leak. Okay, and it shows me the consumption, and it's a very nice tool. And I've been looking at it and studying it. It just doesn't make any sense to me how I could go from this point last year. My water bill was $380 for the same quarter, and I used
Bill, what was the usage?
7932 cubic feet. versus 21,344.
So you're at 210 versus 79. So, yeah, I don't, having not seen it, I don't know. It is definitely something can you do me an additional favor?
Sure.
Just I know it may cost you a little bit, but is there a plumber you know or a family member that does plumbing that could potentially go through and find out if something is using water on a consistent basis? If it's using water on a consistent basis, it's not going to show up as a leak. So I would ask that one, you do the toilet thing like I asked, but maybe check to see if there's something, are you forced hot water heat?
No, we're forced hot air.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
takes that out.
Todd,
So I don't, yes,
I have his beacon in front of me, his usage. In May, it was 21,000 and a little and change. June, 52. July, 63. August, it went back down to 52. September, it was 9,000. So that doesn't, keeps going up.
okay, so it does.
And now it's only 4,000 to this day.
All right, so something happened in that May timeframe is what you're telling me.
The biggest uses was June and July and August.
June, July, and August. All right.
Went back down considerably in September.
Do you have a pool, Bill?
Yes, I do have a pool, as a matter of fact, and we do have to top the pool off in the beginning of the season to get it running. I did the calculation on what it would take to fill the pool if it were empty, and it's somewhere in the order of 12,000 gallons. 12,000 gallons. Okay, so and I probably topped off what would amount to maybe 8 to 10 inches in the spring. So that would indicate a little bit more usage in the previous quarter, and I could understand that. But here we are with the numbers of 21,344 cubic feet. Like I said, between my wife and myself, and I go back 32 quarters to August of 2014, and the average bill was $197.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
yes, sir.
Bill, I would have you keep in correspondence with Dave. I want to put this on the agenda for next meeting, but
Okay.
I also do want, if unless this is specifically with the rates, I want to move on and make sure everybody has time because we are rolling into the later hours. I don't
Yes,
care how late we're here. I can
No.
stay here all night, but I want to be courtesy to everybody else.
No, Bill, like I said, we will, like I said initially, along with Nate, we can put this on the next agenda. Give us some more time to figure out, give you some time to figure it out. But I think we could probably work with something. All right, sir?
Okay,
We need to.
All right,
figure
I
out where
appreciate
that
it.
Water's going.
Yeah, no kidding.
all right, I appreciate it, guys. I'll be in touch with the water office and we'll figure something out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Now, can you see anybody else with their hand? Bill, you can put
Yeah.
your hand down.
Anybody else on
Sorry.
water rates?
I think that's
Following
it.
along with the agenda, it is 2.2.
No, that's what we were on. Town residents discussing water rates was 2.2.
Right, I'm just making sure we're.
Yeah.
everybody's-
All right, so we will go to 2.3, Joan, Beauchamp, 15 Hickory Drive, bill adjustment. Is Joanne there? Going once, Joan, if I pronounce your name wrong, I apologize.
I believe they were here at the beginning of the meeting and they indicated that they weren't familiar with using the iPad and muting.
Okay.
Perhaps they're taking an extra second.
Yeah, I don't see them. All right.
Well, we can wait till the end of the meeting and if
If they come back, we can get them then. All right, I'm good with that. 2.4, Leanne Jackson, 1 Birch Lane, bill adjustment.
Okay, I'm not sure if this is working. This is past my bedtime. But it's Leanne Jackson, 1 Birch Lane. And I actually just was hoping for a bill adjustment. I had got a new water meter put in the fall. I wasn't told when the meter itself was put in that there was actually an app or any way that this was being tracked. I just assumed it had been like that 10 years where a new meter had to come in. No one explained to me that I could, look at this and be able to tell or monitor it or anything. My house is in my name just as of last year. So I am the only person that lives there. And I did get a bill for $2,212.46. And my usage, I believe, was like $18,524. And so what happened was I had called, I guess when the tier must have taken into effect in the spring during our last bill and our last cycle. And I noticed my bill was $466. And like as a homeowner, I just kind of go by the bill to tell if it went up. So I think usage was like, I don't know, I think it was 5 something, but I'm not sure if that's correct what I wrote. But anyway, it was $466. So I called Brenda. I asked her about it. She said, oh, yes, the bills, your prices increased, blah, blah, blah. Well, that bill only affected just the beginning of the summer season when I would have just turned on my irrigation. And so my irrigation was running for the last 3 months during that quarter. And again, for this month, a month into this quarter, until I received the bill. And now I realized that, it was as high as it was, the usage. Again, I'm not home a lot. It's just me. My son's off in college. Already, if I take that $18,000 worth of usage for those 3 months for the quarter, and I divide that by 3, it's showing on my meter since the meter read that I've already used that much again. So what happened was I called when I got the bill. Just like everyone else, I was angry. I did call and I said, I had talked to, not Brenda, she wasn't there, but the other woman in the office. She had Dave come out, and Dave met me a few days later. And he said that my system was one that didn't get flagged as far as high usage, and that's why they never notified me, or no one's ever said to me, hey, it looked like it wasn't cut and dry. I don't know what exactly that is, but he was really helpful. He, at first, we kind of talked, but basically he said my system was using like 17 gallons an hour. And we ended up finding out that even though I had shut off inside my control panel that does the irrigation, that the actual shut-off valve in my basement for the irrigation, even though that wasn't shut off because my irrigation hadn't been blown out yet, it was running, because when he shut it off, you could hear the water. So he said that what he believed was happening was that I have a leak in my irrigation system. So I ended up, he monitored it for the next, 24 hours. I think I talked to him, that was say a Wednesday. And then on Friday I talked to him and he said, yeah, I'm using 0.2 of a gallon now an hour. So he said, definitely it's an irrigation leak. I had somebody blow it out the next day and shut it off, and I'll deal with it in the spring apparently. But I did have somebody look at it, say that they believe the same thing. They think that there's maybe 2 leaks in the system. And it looks like, that bill that I paid last quarter was also high because of that during those few weeks when I turned it on, and then also into this bill. So I was hoping that you guys, I understand, I will say I'm not happy with your tiered system. And I do believe with, the same as these other people, that, I do believe that whole gas analogy, that I shouldn't be charged more for usage of something, but I feel like this is unfortunate. And I think that I'm already being, this isn't something it's just me, so I was hoping that you guys could adjust my bill and maybe look into, I don't know if you can go back a bill, but definitely this quarter, again, adjust it into that different tier or do whatever it is you need to do or could do for me. Because
what we did before for someone last month was they had identified a leak system that was out of their control.
Mm-hmm.
And we dropped their entire usage to the first tier.
Okay.
That's pretty much what a lot of utilities do. Since Dave's identified your system as a definite leak and something a little bit out of your control, I'd be more than willing to do to that, so that we stay, what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent with what we've done in the past in this. So I think that is something that I would be willing to do. Nate, would you be willing to consider dropping everything on Leanne's usage for this quarter? Dave, I don't know if we can do we can't go back, can we?
Because it's another fiscal year.
All right, so it's even outside of a fiscal year, so
What
that kind of,
about, what about the next bill? Like, so like right now, from the reading, the actual reading that was like done, the meter reading, and I like did my math, it's showing like, you know,
I have no problem dropping
Okay.
both to tier 1 because there's an identified leak in your system.
okay.
Todd,
Yes, ma'am.
for September, Leanne used 7,502 gallons for the month.
So
And for October so far, she was 1,689.
Maybe
I'm
we'll
just letting you
consider
know.
this Leanne, maybe I'll ask this of you. We'll deal with the one bill you have now. When we get to the second bill, if you would come before us again and we can go over that. That way we're not projecting out. We can see what we're dealing with and things like that.
Okay.
But I'd be more than comfortable where there was an identified leak in the system, dropping it. This is kind of a one-time, the leak covers potentially more than 2 bills or more than 1 bill, excuse me. So
Yeah.
but going forward, this is kind of like a one and done. This is kind of like, you now know what can happen to the system. You need to be aware of it and stuff like that. But I'd be more than willing to drop it because you have an identified leak to the tier 1 for the usage for the bills that we're talking about. Nate, what's your thought process?
I am in complete agreement.
All right.
Glad you found the leak. Unfortunate, the water went to the ground.
I know.
So it's yeah, it is. And it's the other thing too, you don't have to wait on the apps. You can wake up the meters and record your usage.
So Todd, I'm sorry, my internet connection cut out when you started talking about it. And I didn't
Well,
get to hear
that's
anything.
much to your benefit. Everybody's probably tired of listening to me talk. So what we're saying, I'll wait for Nate to make the motion on this bill. Come
Okay.
back to us next month. Let's see what we're doing
Okay.
with the next one.
But I did hear you say like it's a one-time thing, so it's not a
No,
one-time thing, okay?
But I mean, going forward, like next year or something. You know,
Okay,
we're helping you because
Yeah.
something happened. Now you're aware of it, and if you have the app, or even for everyone else on here.
Brenda just emailed the link, and that's another thing. I don't know if we can talk about it, but like communication, like no, when that was put in, nobody told me like
I'll take that and
the capabilities of that, like no one ever said that. I just assumed as a homeowner, like, oh, it's time to change the meter, just like the gas meter, the whatever.
And I will
Yeah.
say, and being in the industry, we can kind of get tied into thinking everybody knows that we know. And something like this kind of requires us to readjust our thinking. What I
Yeah.
think we can ask of Dave is on the staff when they do that, or even put Dave.
We give out a sheet.
All right. The other thing I would ask Dave is make a PDF of that and put it on the website so that it is available so people start doing that. The other thing I will say too is we mentioned it last month as well. The town website has certain features where you can get alerts about stuff. I don't know how many people you're aware of that. But what I will say, not all the systems have the capability of that yet. Like I said, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And like I said, I'm probably as guilty of it as the next person. I tend to be a chemistry and water geek and think everybody knows what I know, so I can get focused. We can make those definite changes in the communication part of it so that becomes more apt. If you don't know about it, you can't take advantage of it, and that's a fault on our part. And
Yeah,
I apologize
exactly.
for-
Like one of the girls I work with said that she lives in Fitchburg, and she said someone knocked on her door and was like, "Oh, you have a water leak," from the department, and said, "We've been monitoring."
A lot of these new meters, that's, some of it is, and it sometimes it notifies the office if there's a major leak. I think in a couple instances, it's actually saves people's basements because the there was a major like break in the line or break in the bottom of the meter or what have you. But if you don't, the app part is more for monitoring your usage and stuff like that. And if you don't use it, if you don't know about it, you can't use it. So that kind of is on us. I apologize for that. Dave's on here. I'm sure he's going to reiterate with the staff and make sure that the handout is given out when the meter is changed. I've asked him to put it on the website so that people, when they get these meters, they may not have that capability yet, and they'll have to wait until we get it. But you can wake up the meter periodically and kind of check your usage. But
So that meter, can I ask you, the new meter, the one that I have, when you were talking about it before, that meter that reads in cubic, like every time it goes one, it does what?
it's measuring a cubic foot.
Okay, it is. So a cubic foot, but we're being charged 100 per 100?
Right. So when it adds up to 100, that's what 1 unit is.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Listen,
It was just different because like this has only been for 2 bills. Like my other bill was in, I don't know, maybe it was gallons or something, I think before I was.
but so I am not a big fan of cubic feet meters, but it is financially what we could afford to do because the communication on the usage is so difficult, to be quite honest with you. One thing we could look at, and I don't know the cost of it, is on the bills, Dave. We could ask Vadar if they could actually, no, then it gets, never mind. I'm talking out of turn. Leanne, so we will drop everything on, Brenda's noted it. We'll drop I need a motion,
You
Nate.
guys have to vote?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, let's kick it. One more thing. I'm reading chat. Someone would like to know what the name of that app is.
Dave, what's the name of the app? Say again? Eye on Water.
If you have the new meter,
Can we put it in chat? Can you spell it? I'll put it in chat.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Like eyeball on water.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
If you need a copy,
that, Ryan.
call the department and I'll email one to you.
Okay. So, Nate, can I get the motion?
Mr. Chair, this is just, it's a bill adjustment for this quarter.
Correct.
Okay. I move that we adjust the, what's the account number? Does anybody have that?
1310.
All right, I will do that and your name and address, just so we have continuity in case you told me the wrong number. I know it's right in front of you.
We'll help somebody else out.
Yeah.
All right.
That we adjust bill for account number 1310 1 Birch Lane to tier 1 for this quarter.
Seconded. Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote. Todd Melanson, aye.
Nathan Madela, aye.
All right. Motion's been made and passed. Leanne, Brenda's got it noted. When the
Okay.
next bill comes out, come before us again, okay?
Okay, great. And how do I know what it is now?
So they'll send you a new bill.
Okay.
And I'll get in touch with you tomorrow and I'll send you a new bill, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Leanne.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just
Yes,
want to touch
sir.
on a couple of things. The whole communication about this stuff, I would love to have something for awareness as far as water usage, possible leaks, this app, the new meters, the tiered system, and I want to make it something that we can share on those hot town Facebook pages. Now, the town has put out a social media policy which makes it so like Dave or any employee of the water department can't share this on like towns and what's going on or discussing towns or anything like that. But I can share it there. So, excuse me. If I'm able to, if this gets to me and I have something I can share on a Facebook page, a popular Facebook page, I would love to.
So
I mean,
if we got a
furthermore, I'd like to
PDF,
see
if
that
they put it-
policy change a little bit, but that's just the way it is.
So I think if we do that, if we put a PDF together, I think that would be, what I would say is we put a PDF together, we put it on the website. we can ask the town to put it on, not just on the department one, but on the front page for a bit. And then I'm sure people will grab it, but I think if I agree with it. I think that would be a quicker way. Wait a minute. I'm going to ask a question to Chaz Duranian because he knows town policy better than I do. If we put a PDF together, the Townsend Water Department also has a Facebook profile. It doesn't post on the pages, but could we post a PDF of that sort on sorry, I do strange things with my hands when I'm thinking. Could we put it on the Water Department's Facebook profile? Does that violate any of the town policies on
No,
social
you
media?
can do that.
All right, so why don't we do this? And Nate, I appreciate the thought, the idea of that. It's actually a really good one. So why don't we start there? We put it on the town website, the town water department portion of the website, and especially when they correct that other portion, and the Townsend Water Department profile. And then whoever wants to take it, it doesn't just have to be you. It can get taken out there and shared, so it becomes, I think that's a really good oh shit. Oh, excuse me. It's late and my brain has stopped working. I think it's a really good way to get the information out there very quickly. I really liked your idea, Nate. And I would ask that Dave and the ladies, the staff, the admin staff in the office, maybe get together and put that together as soon as possible so we can get it out there. I really like that idea, Nate. I really and truly do. All right. Let me answer. What I would say, I'm going to Rod Latham, he said, I understand the need for the tiered system because of state funding. Is there potential for the tiering to be adjusted to be more fairly equitable? What I would say is that we have committed to reviewing the rate structure on a more regular basis so we don't go 10 years. You find a lot of communities get comfortable, or water utilities get comfortable with a rate and they let it go too far before raising it. What I would say is we could do another rate study. Neither I nor the staff nor Nate have the time and I don't have the expertise to go through and do a rate study. What I would say is that every 2 to 3 years, because it is a substantial cost, we do a rate study and see where it needs to be adjusted, especially since what we're going to be getting back from the state in the interest and the forgiveness may allow us to adjust the tier system and things like that. And that's what these rate studies are intended to do. So I would say, I guess it depends on your definition of equitable, but I do think that the rates, once we know where we stand with SRF and things going forward, yeah, I think it can be reassessed. And that's something we probably should have mentioned at the beginning of this. And I appreciate the question. I see one hand raised. Kevin Keefe. Yes, sir.
Thank you for taking me for a second. If you don't know, I work for the Townsend Water Department. For those, I'm Kevin Keefe, 16 Maplewood Drive. I just there's been a gazillion times that I have wanted to post communication-wise with the public, and I've done, with the dirty water, I talked to Dave and them, and we kind of put something on, but I was so nervous because the town made me sign something that basically I could be terminated if I put anything on social media. So, and then I just heard Chaz say, but it's just, for me to want to do it, it would be strictly to benefit and help people understand things.
But Kevin, it's specific about the town policy, and it's not just our town policy. It's a lot of other town policies in regards to social media. You yourself, as an employee of the town and the water department, necessarily can't, because you may or may not go against the wishes of people of what the regulations say, what town policy is, or whatever. And you're speaking, but what I would say is, if you feel like that, if something needs to be communicated, I would say reach out to Dave and put something on the water department profile. Okay?
Well, that's what I was saying. But even if I put it on the profile, which I did the once,
Yeah.
and set the foreman Kevin, but even still, I'm an employee. I'm Kevin the foreman, and they made me sign something that I can be terminated by doing that.
Mr. Chairman.
All the employees did. So I don't, it's a town policy. It's a social media policy. To be honest with you, I checked into it. The AG office recommends this because you end up creating liability for the community that you work for. So, so what I would say is, one thing when you communicate on that, try not to make it personal. I would say instead of saying Kevin Keith or the superintendent or whatever, leave it as the water department. But use the vehicle that you have, which is the water department profile page, that, and so long as it is approved by the superintendent, and if it needs to by the board at some point, but I'm okay with you guys getting together and the discolored water. Nate and I, we're volunteers. You guys do it. If it's an emergency and it needs to get done, the vehicle you have to communicate with the public legally is that Townsend Water Department Facebook page. And it's
Well,
a town.
and I did talk to the union, but that is social media, which is even.
But
though
it's a recognized vehicle, and it's
Well,
not. It has to. I would say you're not allowed to post just anything on the Townsend Water Department profile page. You have an accessible vehicle that's accepted by the town rules, and I think that is the proper way to do it. You personally going out, there are legal things that you can make the town and the water department liable for if you start posting that way on your profile page.
Well, no, you're not. You're taking me. I am strictly talking about the Townsend Facebook water page,
And
not
but
mine
that-
personally.
Okay,
I
then
was
that
told
one.
that if I post on the Townsend Water Department page as the foreman
All right.
information, that I'm putting it on social media. That's what the
But
union
that's
had
it.
said.
But the Townsend Water Department is an accepted vehicle. I think what
Okay.
they're talking about is if you post Kevin Keith. I will say this: if you post a picture of hanging Todd Melanson on the Townsend Facebook page, you might get fired for that. So it has to be an approved Facebook a message.
that will hold you.
Could
Mr.
Chad
Chairman.
say
Yes.
anything about
Wait a
that?
minute. Hold on, Kevin. Yes, Nate.
Kevin, it sounded like when you started off on this, you said I signed something. I would get a copy of that memorandum because I believe it was a memorandum. I didn't sign it. It was offered to me to sign. I said, no, I'm not going to sign this. I'm elected by the people. I'm not going to take memorandums from other boards and sign them unless it's so. But anyway, fully understand the verbiage of that memorandum, and I'm sure the selectmen would be happy to, or maybe even the TA would be happy to explain any verbiage that you don't understand. That is going to guide you, and as long as you understand the verbiage and you're within the confines of that, you
Well, the
shouldn't have to
verbiage
fear
is
for your
very
job.
clear
I don't
cut.
want
It says
anybody
you-
to fear for their job while doing
Well,
their
the
duties.
verbiage is very clear. It says if you you cannot post on social media. And when I talked to the
I
union
don't think
about
it
it, they
says
said
that.
they said that Facebook is social media. So any page on Facebook is considered social media. So that's where I'm just nervous about it. I wish if
I
Chad's
think-
still on.
Yes, he is. Chaz, it's the accepted ones. Like, I don't think you can just, unless it's an emergency and it's discoloration, but if it's general information, what I would say in my interpretation of it, and maybe I'm wrong, is that so long as you get, first of all, always have it reviewed. I'm really good with science. I can't type to save my life. autocorrect even screws me up. So having someone review your work for grammar and punctuation and spelling is always a plus. But so long as it gets approved, as far as I understood it, the Townsend Water Department Facebook profile was an accepted vehicle. And then I will turn it over to Chaz to go over the town policy.
Actually, Sir Chair, this is not on the agenda item, and I don't really think I can speak
Okay.
to that.
All right, good enough.
What I understand is you cannot answer posts and you can't use it as a personal vehicle.
All right. So Kevin, what I would ask is maybe have the union rep put it on or yourself put it on as an agenda item
Okay.
for the next meeting, and we'll go over it and we'll get it in depth. All right.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. And the liaison is correct. It wasn't on our agenda, so glad to get that put aside. 3.1.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
do we want to give Joanne Beauchamp one more time? I don't know if she's.
All right. Good enough. I was going to wait until we got to the end, but we'll do it periodically when we switch a section, okay? I'm looking for a Joanne Beauchamp, 15 Hickory Drive, a bill adjustment. Are you with us? I don't see her. It's late. All right. Nate, when we get to superintendent's reports, we'll check her again, all right? For her again. 3.1, review dig safe procedures. Dave, where are you on that?
So right now, I gave you the procedures for everything. And and that's in your package. You can look at it and basically for digs, we are not allowed to go past anything we do not own. That is written in the dig safe procedures, which is in that package. If we don't own and maintain it, we are not allowed to market. Plus,
Who says you're not allowed? I'm sorry, Dave.
we are not allowed to market.
Yeah, who says that, Dave?
Dig safe.
I need to read before we go any further, I need to read and
I
review
think
it.
there's a little confusion. When we had initially brought this up, we were talking about water infrastructure only. We're not talking about gas or anything like that. So
I'm not
dig
talking
safe.
about dig safe rules.
Well,
Okay.
what he said, his interpretation, I think, if I'm reading it right, is we don't own from the box to the house.
Correct. Here's the other thing. You have to mark within 18 inches. We have no records of anything from the box to the house. There is no way for us to do that.
So you get the records.
Dig safe does have something on there that the contractor or the homeowner has a list of dig safes that will do private lines.
All right, so why don't we? I need to look at what you sent, Dave. To be honest with you, I didn't
It's
get
in the dig
to
safe
do
file.
it. No, I
I'm
understand
not
that.
seeing any 3.1 in my packet.
It's under like rules and not rules, it's under operational procedures. Because I put it in there.
All right.
So, Dave, what we had talked about initially was
Correct.
Okay.
Let
so,
him finish.
Yeah, let me finish my thought. You can clearly sell where the pipe comes in to the domicile. Usually it's a domicile, generally. Okay, the building. You know where the curb stop is, or hopefully. Okay. Now some of the stuff, some of the infrastructure is mapped out. Some of it isn't. Some of it was put in by the water department. Some of it wasn't. Okay. And we were talking about mapping. We were also talking about dig safe. Now, this specifically is a dig safe procedure. But between the curb stop and the point of entry into the building, domicile, whatever it might be, the place where it has a water service, we were talking about doing our best. Yeah, Dig Safe has their set of rules. But you know what? That's just a minimum. Okay. The code is a minimum. I was asking for something to do all we can to avoid disruption of someone's service or damage to someone's service and add that to a procedure.
So.
And this has been on the agenda for the past like 4 or 5 meetings.
Right.
So what I would say is on that, the reason why they say 18 inches, because you take in a certain amount of liability on it. But the thing is I found too many that kind of take a weird turn on they were trying to avoid a rock or God knows what. What I would say is maybe we need to come up with, and I don't know, and it would have to get reviewed by town council, but my thought process now is where we don't have the complete set of records, we don't have the equipment to do the underground radar like we had talked about.
I was.
What would you, because you said, no, you actually did, because you said, can we get you one? Because
Right, yeah, and then we talked about maybe seeing if other towns want to go in and maybe like an
Right.
intermunicipal.
Right.
board.
Actually, I talked to a couple of them and they weren't really interested.
No good.
But you know what we can do too, Nate, and another thought process on it is there's a lot of money in coming from MEMA right now, the Emergency Response Agency. I could definitely see us working. Mr. Duranian, the liaison, does the town have a grant writer?
Not at the moment, no.
Let me see what I can find on the MEMA grants. If we can get one that would pay for it or pay for a significant portion, there might be something. I don't know if we'd fit it into this budget, Nate, but definitely the next. But my thought process is where we can't get to the surety on the 18 inches, which is the legal liability portion of this. If we came up with a waiver, and I would need town council's input on it, on whether it was a legal document. But if we gave them saying, this is our best effort to identify where the line is. We just want you to know we're not 100% sure. We're not sure to the regulation, but this is, based on common sense, line of sight or whatever. If we put together a waiver that the homeowner would sign, we then could potentially go and do what you're saying. Take the service box, do a direct line to where it enters the building, and go with it that way. Dave, let me ask, do we require now the service lines to be sleeved and with an electric tracing line on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking about the ones that don't have this. So I think that might get us to where you want to be, Nate. But I would want it reviewed by council so that we're not creating a bigger issue.
I don't know if this is completely factual, but I want to say that there's the Dig Safe verbiage or whatever. They don't really guarantee much of anything. It's kind of just a big formality, it seems. And I'd like to look at the actual wording of the Dig Safe. Like, hey, we come out and we put paint on the ground, but like, oh, between this area and this area, if you hit something, it's not our fault. I think it's not quite what it seems, but I'm not sure about that.
No,
and I'm looking through the meeting packet. I'm not seeing any policy here.
I lost
Dave.
the meeting packet, so
May I add something on that for
Sure.
you, Nate and Todd? My suggestion might be to go to get signed up for the town council next session and bring that to his attention. If he doesn't have the information right there, he'll be able to point you in the right direction.
all right.
How does one know the age of the meter? I would call the office.
Yeah,
They'll
the
have
office
stuff
should
on
have.
record, Rod.
Yeah, Nate's right about that.
I don't mean to go out of order here, but
No, you're good. That was a good catch, Nate. No, he's correct. If you call the office, they have the date it was installed.
That's not correct.
No,
All right,
it
so
should be.
in 2013, the town got a letter
Oh. No, he,
saying the following things. You must change your industrial meters. You must change your house meters. You must do a dig safe. You must fix, because they were, for the last 10 years, they were at 33% or higher unaccounted for water. So what they did, and they changed all the dates of the meters by changing the reader. And not change
that's
the meter.
right. Well, not all of them, but a decent percent. He's right. So what they're worried about, so what they did, because of the monetary constrictions, from what I understand, they only changed the electronic top of the meter. So the ones that happened to, the brass base of the meter is still old. Dave, is there any way to quantify which ones of those are, or?
There was about 1,600. Right now, we're approaching 600 meters have been changed to the new meter that we definitely have dates on.
All right, so we're getting there. So to answer the question is, I would say for some of them, we know, if the head was changed but not the base, then it may be well, I don't even know what the right word is, a misassumption of the age. So I just, I'm really losing my train of thought. All right, so why don't we get back on the agenda? That's something we can try and talk about later at a different meeting.
Yes.
3.2,
Hold on,
discuss.
Mr.
Yes.
Melanson.
Yes, sir.
I've still yet to see something that's written up for this policy.
All right.
What was
Dave,
the
you
answer
said-
for this?
It's all written up. And dig safe,
Can I see it, please?
though.
I sent out,
Can you email it to?
When
Nate.
did you send it out?
I gave it to the office about a week ago to send it out to you.
Okay,
Um,
a week ago?
It wasn't just dig safe, it was for all operational procedures. It's a work in progress.
all right, hold on.
So it's not finished? But we
No,
have
it never
something.
will be. It's a living document. So
What changes did you make?
There are no changes because it's never been written.
All right, so I don't see it either. So if you could please resend it, I would.
Yeah, 23 separate categories from
Right.
infrastructure.
All right,
everything.
I understand that. What we're asking for is either to email it now or to email it tomorrow so
Thought
that
it
we
was
have
in
it.
the meeting packet. It was in both your meeting packets.
It was?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's in the meeting packet and it's listed as Townsend Water Department Operational Procedures and Guidelines, January 2023.
All righty. Brenda says it's in there. I didn't have the meeting packet open. I apologize. Here it is right here.
Are you wait? You said it's in the meeting packet?
Yes, she did.
But it's not under. You know
Hold
which
on.
page it is?
That's what I'm looking for, Nate. Hold on one sec. Harbor Trace questions. All right, there's that. The water conservation standards is listed. Leanne. All right, there's that.
It's numbered as 6.6
All right.
on the top right-hand corner.
I was looking for 3 points. Where's my agenda go? Whatever item
Yeah, I
it was
know.
on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Misty had numbered these all for me today, so she numbered it as 6.6. I don't know, Dave, did you ask her to number? I don't know what you asked her to put it under. I don't know.
All right, hold on.
Maybe she'll just do 3 points. Maybe it's not 3 points.
This time.
Section 13.
Section. Is this it? Townsend operational procedures, it says 6.6 on it. It is page 51.
Yeah, so I'd like you guys to go through it and read it, and then next meeting, see what your thoughts are.
Is it really that long? Can I just read it right now?
It
It's that long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
not-
it goes from 51 to page.
I
Does it
can't.
go all the way to the end to 84? Yeah, it does. Yeah, no, it's fairly significant. Nate,
Wait.
I don't.
This is the dig safe procedure.
No, it's all the procedures.
Yeah, but we were specifically asking.
So
The
the
dig
dig
safe
safe
procedure.
is. It's section
Maybe I'm a little
13.
confused. Let me just look at my agenda one more time, and make sure that I'm not losing
So
my
it's-
mind.
No, it does say dig safe. So it's section 13, part 1, page 77. Goes into what is dig safe. There's some stuff. Step 4. It goes into actually just outlining how to do dig safe. And then let's see, there's some numbers. I would say, Dave, this is specific
Is this
to
your
just,
policy? Did you type this?
no, it's this, I think this is what is off of.
Dig safe.
So
Okay,
Dave,
so you
what I
just
would,
took. This
Yeah.
is not what we talked about.
There's
Well,
a,
we're going to revisit this. We're going to move on. This is staying on the agenda for next meeting.
all right.
that's what I'm asking you to do, is to look
All right.
over it.
All right. So
Yeah,
I
this
think-
is dig safe. This is them. I'm talking about our procedure.
It's in. you
Okay,
need to
all
do
right.
it.
All right.
I'll read it.
Sure.
No,
okay.
I
It's
think,
it's one book.
all right. So Nate, I would like to take, in addition to this, staying on the agenda, I would like to take, Chaz's suggestion and meet with town council on this and see what we can piece together that protects us in the liability range, and see, and if the idea of a waiver works, and then we can fit it into this or revamp what is there. Are you amenable to that?
Yeah. I mean, something is better than nothing. I think at this point, there might be a little bit of confusion as to what I'm looking for here. So we might need to have that discussion again.
Yeah, so why don't, Mr. Duranian, can you ask?
Before we talk to town council, I'd like to have another, let's not do it now. Let's keep
Alright.
going on we still
Okay.
have
Yep.
the liaison and superintendent's updates. So
Alright.
let's do that.
Let's see. 3.2, discuss interest adjustment for accounts 60370. Was this an overpayment or just the bills passed in the night?
Yes, so just the ones, I'm sorry, 3.2, the interest adjustments are just exactly everything we do every month. They
All right.
paid on 7/8. They didn't get them till after 8. We got all the information. It's in your packet, all the
No,
dealing information.
so it's the same one we do pretty much every month.
Exactly. For those two, 3.2 and 3.3 is the exact same thing. Just as you well know, we interest daily. So whatever the amount of the interest is at the time, we'll do it
What
today,
page is that
tomorrow.
on? What page is that on? Do you know?
What page is what on?
Where,
It's 23 on the packet.
thank you.
This is Penn Fox Run.
I don't think so.
0370.
No.
Yeah, that's what it's showing here.
All right.
3.2.
Is that the interest adjustment?
Just the interest.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, when I brought this up, when I called, it was actually more of just a general thing. I had not paid attention to the new bills that
Okay.
have come. I always just get my
Alright.
bill and I always pay it. But it looks like on the bills, you guys say that
Yeah.
you start charging bills after 30 days, but you actually start charging interest 1 day after the bill date.
Yeah.
So
It's where
there,
so what we normally do is if it comes in like that, we adjust it. So I'll make the motion that we adjust account number. They're both the same?
Yes, just the interest, both of them.
All right. I make a motion that we adjust the interest for account number 60370 and 4640 to the amount shown on, do I need to mention the account, the
No,
actual amount?
because it changes daily and it's a daily.
All right, so
You don't need
I,
the dollar amount?
no, because she said it's gonna change, so they've already added on
It'll be more
for today.
tomorrow.
Yeah, so I make a motion that we make, oh crap, I'm on the wrong page again. I make a motion that we adjust the interest for account number 60370 and 4640 to zero, I guess. I don't know how else to. Oh my God, I'm so tired.
But isn't this a general problem with the new billing system then? Because I actually went back and I looked at, I always pay my bills on time, my mail, and you guys are now doing that PO box in Reading on that.
Just the billing system, so it only starts
We're
accruing at
trying
30.
to, right now, we're trying to work with Vadar to see if we can put in some kind of
Yeah,
grace period.
because that's actually what it stated on the bill. It says after 30 days you're going to start accruing interest, but you guys have likely
Right.
been charging people interest
No.
day one.
Mhm.
So I would say that needs to get taken care of sooner than later. Vadar that should be an easy change for Vadar. It's just got to be changing the algorithm on the interest, and that. So
We've
I
already
would.
spoken. I think.
All right, so they're already aware of it.
I believe so. I believe Misty sent out an email the other day.
All right. So I will. Oh, Nate.
Yes.
The motion I made about dropping it to zero, does that work, or does it need to be something else? Because I can't think right
I
now.
think that's pretty, that you're dropping the interest to zero. Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Just go ahead. Yeah.
All right. I make a motion that for account numbers 60370 and 4640, the interest be adjusted to zero. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Vote. Todd Melanson, aye.
Nathan Madala, aye.
Good enough. Brenda, what's up? I can't find it right now. What's up with account number 1180?
That's Mr. Considine. Is he still on here?
He's gonna come back to us.
Yeah, that's correct.
All
That's
right, all right. So that one's settled.
Yeah.
That one will be tabled until next meeting. Commissioner updates, 4.1. Nate, you got anything?
I do not.
Neither do I. 5.1, liaison update. Mr. Duranian, do you have anything for us?
I do not.
Well, that's good. Not that I don't like to hear from you, but I'm just tired. 6.1, discuss an update, superintendent update, section 6, superintendent's updates and reports. Dave, take it away.
First one is 169 Greeley Road.
Yep.
You know, as you know, we listed it as an emergency. The town said not an emergency. Well, that main started leaking in the process and in the house. So now every person is on the new main.
How bad of a leak was it, Dave?
Not flooding the house.
All right.
And the next step is to cut the main at the street.
All right.
Wait,
And
I wasn't kept apprised of that. You said that we deemed it an emergency, and then what happened?
the town said it wasn't an emergency, but it ended up being back as an emergency because of the leak in the basement. But everything's taken care of, and the only process that's left is to cut the main. The way it was, because the main runs through somebody's basement and feeds 4 other houses. And coming to see the records, that main was from the late 1800s.
It went right straight through. Went into the foundation, through the basement, out the back, and then it haphazardly fed all the houses on Greeley Road. There is a definition for emergency that I came aware of after the fact, I guess. But because it wasn't leaking and we could do it in the normal scheme of municipal operations, it was deemed not an emergency. Same sort of thing with the Highland. We couldn't, because they just paved the road and they had water, we couldn't declare the discoloration there an emergency, and that's why it took so long to get the money together to go horizontally drill under it. I gotta say, Dave, I stopped by a couple times, so that you know, I got nothing but great feedback from all the residents. Gary's farm stand said you said, it's going off. It'll be on in less than an hour. You guys were true to your word. I stopped by and looked at some of the work. You guys did some really good work. I got to commend you. I like that there's a fire hydrant on that road now, not just so that we can fight a fire, but it scares the heck out of me. We're never able to flush that line. So that they've got, I got to say that the work that was done on that was to be commended, and just please convey that to the staff. It was like I said, I got nothing good from the residents on that road. I'm glad we got it done before that really started leaking. That unlined fieldstone foundation, if that had really popped, we probably would have lost that house.
Yeah, we got it before the leak got bad.
All right, good enough. Let's go.
All right, Witchesburg 2, which is
Go back one. Is this part of PFAS update?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
So Witchesburg 2 is starting to go up as well, and Witchesburg 1.
What are we at?
Right now, 12.6 on Witchesburg 2. We were back down in the single digits for a while. And as you know, we were up almost to 18 at one time, and 20 is where we have to shut it down or.
Well, not a single one. It's only the quarterly average if you have to. So,
Correct.
So
if it's 20 for an average of 3 months, then
let the so that people understand that are still with us. And by the way, Tyler, I appreciate you still hanging with us, dude. The PFAS is what is contaminated harbor trace. It is their polyfluorinated alkaline substances. Anything water resistant, stain resistant, fire resistant has this stuff in it. We, through looking at monitoring wells and stuff like that, it's pretty much coming from the septic systems, primarily, of Timberley Park. The regulation states is 20 parts per trillion. The state regulates 6 of these compounds, so any combination of the 6 that exceeds 20 is a violation if that quarterly. So if you do 1 and it's so high that doesn't matter if you were 0 for the next 2, it wouldn't be below 20. That's an automatic violation of a maximum contamination limit. The rest of the time, you're allowed to go to 3 months, average them together, and if they are less than 20.5, then it is not a violation. If you exceed that 20.5, it rounds to 21, and 21 is an exceedance of the 20. There does seem to be some seasonal fluctuations and stuff. A lot of this, we're learning about it. This stuff, once it hits water, it is so mobile, it's not even funny. And to be honest with you, almost everybody's having to deal with this. But that's why we're kind of where we are with the treatment plant and stuff like that. I appreciate being updated on that, Dave. Would it be interesting to see, Dave? Do you know if anyone, I don't know if anyone in town has a weather station, but what we're starting to see is heavy precipitation corresponds to increased numbers. So I don't know.
I have an answer for that one.
Good enough.
And I also tied it to stream flow. The higher the stream flow, the more PFAS. The wetter it is, the more precipitation, the more PFAS.
Well, they kind of go together, because if you got more rain, it's gonna saturate, but you're gonna get more stormwater. Yeah. All right. Next one, Harbor Trace Treatment Plant, Dave.
So we submitted to SRF for the loan. MEPA certification will be given to us on the 27th of October,
Okay.
which is the Massachusetts EPA. And we also filed with the Conscom. And we are going to have to worry about the blanding turtles.
Okay. We can get
Because-
that. You can get around that. That's not to get
Right,
around
so-
it, but you can make accommodations for the turtles.
Right, so the only thing we need Conservation Commission on is on the water lines that come within 200 feet of the riverfront, not on the site itself.
Think you might want to check with DCR on that. I think our water lines are exempt. So
Right. Right, but you still have to file for Conscom because they need to tell you what barriers you need to put up.
all right. Good enough.
So it's just an order of conditions. We still can put it in, but they can say, put this barrier up.
Yeah,
Hey, Dale.
no, all right. You're right in that effect. Okay, Dave. All right.
Right.
I thought you were telling me they were telling us we couldn't, and
No,
then
not at all.
then I would disagree with them.
Right.
All right. Anything
We
else
wanna-
on the plan?
We want to set a meeting for the residents and anyone who's along the water line, just to inform them.
Well, you know what? I don't want to limit it to those. This is something for the entire community. So I would,
Or do you want me to make a letter and send it out on the bills in December?
has the final draft plans been approved by the engineers yet, or
Right
given us?
now, we submitted the 60%, which is required. And we have to have the final draft for January 1st.
All right, so I'd say the first step is let us look at the 60%. And see what we've got. That'll determine what the building is gonna look like, how build and stuff like that. I'd like to wait until we get 100% in January and then have the meeting. So we're not saying this in November or December, and then it changes in January. I think if we set a meeting for late January, early February, I think it's something we could put together I truly think it should be something the whole community sees. Whether it via Zoom, the local TV or what have you,
Right.
but give them the opportunity to see what we're talking about. And the opportunity to ask questions at that point.
Correct.
Nate,
So-
what's your feeling?
Yeah, open it up to the whole town because really, if anybody, even though if you're not a water taker, we're all in this town together, and it's not to say that you couldn't become a customer.
No,
It will affect people who are not water takers currently because it is going up South River Road and Emery Road, and there will be hydrants there, which and everyone is going to be left a stub, whether or not they hook into it or not.
I like that. No, I like that idea, Dave. So if they're on a well and we hit or if it goes dry, instead of trying to do an emergency tap, the stub is already there and it's a heck of a lot, excuse my language, quicker and easier to do it off of a tap than trying to tap the main afterwards.
And it's cheaper.
Yeah, no, I that's a good idea. What we should do too is if we have this meeting and the people that don't normally have hydrants do, it's something we should make them aware of so that they can notify their insurance company now that they have a hydrant within 500 feet. Because it
Right.
is going to reduce they're not going to be reliant on a pumper or a fire pond, and it does affect their insurance. So I think that's something we've missed enough stuff in notifying people about the meters and stuff. I don't want to let these slip. So I think that's something we definitely bring to the meeting too, is that, you're going to be left a stub in case you have an emergency, but the hydrant is something that they should definitely take notice of and notify their insurance company and hopefully get some sort of reduction in it. Anything else on the treatment plant, Dave?
Yeah, so we're in the process of going to Conscom, and we're going to go to the building inspector because we got to get all our permits.
I thought the permits were already done.
No, we just came to an agreement with the building inspector that we don't have to meet zoning.
All right.
So, but we didn't have.
Is
the
that
zoning-
what the DEP corrected him on? Didn't DEP have to call him?
No, we didn't have
Alright.
to call.
All right.
I had the regulations. He looked it up and he found also another regulation that confirmed that one.
Okay. I'm good with that.
So, but we are going to meet every zoning that we possibly can.
Yep.
The only one I think is, we're not going to have the right frontage. Because the frontage is only like 30 feet.
No, I know.
And the height of the building over the vessels is going to be near or just over the height restrictions for the town,
Which is what, 35?
35 feet.
Yeah, okay.
So we made a
So that people also understand, primarily Nate, well, Nate, maybe, I already said this, but for Tyler, the vessels we're talking about are, so like for iron and manganese, they usually go horizontally. But because you need the amount of contact time for the water to go through the filter and for the contaminant to be absorbed, you need contact time. So they put them vertically. And for the granular activated carbon, they're roughly 28 feet tall. So you need a little bit of space to be able to go over it, allow you ability to get in ports and stuff like that. So that's pretty much why the height gets set. And we're kind of going with the GAC filters because you can use that filter for GAC or resin. The resin doesn't need as much contact time, so it doesn't necessarily have to be as tall, but you can't use a resin vessel for GAC. So if, like, say at a later time you wanted to switch to GAC and resin, you'd almost have to go out and buy a whole new set of vessels. So, and I'm only telling you this because you've actually stayed with us for the entire meeting, so I feel like I owe you explanations. And again, I assume everybody knows what I know, so I'm trying to be better about that.
Doing a fine job.
So it is.
Yeah, we're really unfortunate to have Todd on the board. He has such a knowledge of water and background, more than any commissioner I've ever seen or been. Oh, but Mark,
I stayed with you because anytime I've reached out, I've always gotten good responses. Dave's always he's answered my phone calls regardless, and both you. I don't think you guys have malintentions, and maybe we have disagreement, but I know what you're doing and where you're generally coming from. So I'm just trying to educate myself and pay attention to the process. Really.
No, and I actually that's. I guess that's the best. That's only what we can hope for is that you get that, first of all, that we act appropriately. By the way, I'm Scottish, so my head gets red when I get frustrated. None of it is directed personally, and if I did get red, and it's with my big bald dome, it's pretty visible. So it is never personal. It's just sometimes I get frustrated with my inability to communicate things correctly. But I appreciate your stance. I really appreciate you staying with us until 10 o'clock now. Our meetings don't usually go this long. We try to be a little bit better. But there was enough importance. But I do feel like when we start talking about PFAS, there aren't many people that know a lot about this. It's fairly brand new. I take a little bit of pride. So I work for a water utility. The chelmsfordwater.com website actually has a PFAS tab on it that has a lot of information. Feel free to go and look at it to get informed about PFAS since it is affecting our community. What I regularly tell people is nothing I tell you about PFAS is going to make you feel any better. It'll just make you better informed to make better decisions. Yeah. All right, back on topic. I veer off way too much.
So
we're done with arbitration.
We're just going to finish it real quick.
All right, 12.
Just go for the residents.
Yep.
It's 3 wells that are going to be put through that treatment plant. The Harbor Trace well, Witches Brook 1 on Ash Street, and Witches Brook 2. And they all are showing signs of some contamination. And the plant will do 1.7 million gallons per day by itself.
Okay.
And so that's it for the habitation well. So
Alright.
6.4
Yep.
deluxe, they're gonna tap their main on South Street Monday or Tuesday, and they're gonna begin that project then.
All right. That's a long time coming, Dave.
What?
It's a long time in coming.
Yep. Generators will be able to bid with the treatment plant. All one. If we're gonna just do disturbances, we'll do it all at once with the system.
All right.
So that'll be in with the rest of it. And that's gonna go on to Main Street. Because Main Street right now, if you lose power, you lose the water. And the same thing with Cross Street.
I want to make one note on that and thank you to the town. If I'm right in remembering, Main Street and Cross Street generators are being funded through ARPA, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So I would like to extend a thank you. It wasn't something on the original ARPA list. It was something we came back with later. And I do appreciate the town allocating those funds to the water department from ARPA. All right, Dave.
And 6.6 is the operational procedures. I'm gonna ask you, both of you, to review it. It's a work in progress. There's a lot of information that's been collected over the last year and a half to do that, because you asked me several times to develop this piece, in this piece, in this piece, and it's a huge project. There is no operational procedures currently for anything.
All right, so I would also say that, you know, these sort of things are living documents. They are, you know,
Correct.
regulations change and stuff like that. Because I seem to see, there seems to be a disconnect between that, specifically on the dig safe.
That's
I think,
one.
I know, let me finish, please. What I would say, Nate, is why don't you and I put what we think it should look like? I like having the dig safe specific verbiage there, but maybe there's a disconnect in the communication of it. Maybe we put together, like, if you can put together what you think the procedure was, and maybe I can put together the wording on the waiver portion, and then we come to some sort of middle ground and figure out what we can and take that to town council to approve. What's your thought on that?
Oh, yeah. Anything we can do to.
So, all right. So are you willing to take that up, right? What you think that it should look like, and then I'll work on the waiver part, and then we can try and meet. I like keeping the actual dig safe documentation there, because not a lot of people know it.
Well,
And
this is our policies and procedures, though. This
No,
is
I know,
just-
but
this is
you-
regurgitated from DigSite's website.
no, I know, but I'm saying keep that because I actually like that. Well, and I need to read it. I haven't, to be honest with you, I didn't get through to go through it. So I'm going to go through it. If there's something you think that needs to be changed or modified, do so. We can come together, make sure it meets the liability. So we're not creating a liability for ourselves in the town. I can come up with a waiver. There's enough templates of those. Next meeting, we kind of put it together, see what's there, see what needs to be changed, and then we take it to the town council. Then we get this off our table. All right?
And the category before is services. So they go together.
Oh yeah. All right. So I didn't get a chance to read them. I'll be quite honest. I'll go through it and look at it and find out something. I do understand. I've gotten a bigger education on liabilities and stuff like that, and unintentionally creating them. So I think let's put together what we think's a good starting point. Take that to town council. When's the next meeting for town council, Chaz?
I think it's the 26th or the 27th.
They're on
I
Tuesdays.
don't think we're going to be ready for this month, but we could do it the following month.
I mean, my thought is that, yeah, you can sign up for the following month, but if you guys have some procedure or policy that you're thinking, this is what is something that you want reviewed, even previously, I can send it to him directly and he can give us,
Okay.
his thoughts on it before you even go to the meeting.
Okay. Yeah, could you, at least I could go, I'd like Nate and I to go to it. The more we have a meeting in direction, maybe we don't waste our time. So I don't mind signing up for it. You, Nate?
I don't, but I was reading this DigSafe thing, and I guess, I mean, it's kind of weird how this whole DigSafe thing works, because it says, you know, you're a member, you're a utility member, but
Dave,
I don't
did
know
we-
what that
So what
entails.
so what that means, Dave, did we sign up for DigSafe?
Correct.
All right, so automatically the energy companies are automatically members of DigSafe. It's because their corporations pay for it and stuff like that. Water and sewer are not automatically included. That's why on the DigSafe brochures it says call DigSafe and then call your local utilities to mark out.
Ah,
You can join, and I recommend to most water utilities, because we did it. And what happens is when someone puts a DigSafe in, instead of them having to call you, you get an automatic email on DigSafes. But there's a cost. It's like $1 an email or something like that, depending on the volume you get. So if we're signed up, that means we are a member. Dave, I think that probably that should be mentioned in the policy somewhere, that we are a member and that you get and that's part of probably what we're looking for, to be honest with you.
That's what I'm asking
So-
you. And,
All right,
and
but
make
this I can see why, Dave, why you were reluctant to type something up like we had spoken about, because it does say, and I see that you've highlighted it, DigSafe member utilities may only mark lines they own or maintain. Well, that's fine under their DigSafe program. But furthermore, when someone calls you and says, hey, you guys got to do this, approach the person that made the call, says, well, we have our own program where we, would like you to know where that water line is. So that's more, I guess, what I'm talking about it, but you got to step aside and say it a different way, because they're saying in
I
there,
think there's also a law behind this. This isn't just this isn't just something DigSafe put together. There's a mass general law behind it.
push. Well, yeah, I mean,
So you can't,
okay, so
if
if an electrician goes and pounds a ground rod through your water pipe and it wasn't marked out, but it could have been, now is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, there's an answer to that.
but also you have to look at the liability. So say you mark it out, but you don't know where it is,
Right. So that's where you get the
the
waiver.
waiver, then that's what I think that's the part we need to work on.
But
So
it says in DigSafe that the contractor must call a utility, not a utility. It's a company that does those.
So what he's saying is there are companies that will mark out unknown lines that,
Correct.
but they would have to hire them. I don't like the idea of somebody having to hire someone. I think we can use, if the waiver passes muster with town council, and they look into, like I said, I don't want to unintentionally create a different liability. But I also want to service our customers as best we can. So long as we're doing it within the law. I think the waiver is the best possibility. And what I'd like to see too in this, and I apologize, Dave, I didn't have the time to get through that. But what I would say is, what I'd like to see too is your procedure on when the email comes in, how is that part of it processed and pushed out to the staff? That way it's in writing. If, say, God forbid, you drop dead tomorrow, Kevin can pick up that SOP and knows exactly what it's a transfer, or making institutional knowledge transferable from staff to staff. So I think that should be part of it. That the email comes in, who has access to it, what's the process of putting it together, how does the worker get assigned? That probably should be in that. And not just so much about and if it's in the service part, Dave, listen, I apologize. I really and truly didn't get time to go through it. I will before the next meeting, but that would be a critique of mine, is that part of the SOP, so to speak, should be in that part. Anything else, Nate?
No, we'll,
All right,
we'll
but I can
file
see
it.
where the disconnect was, to be honest with you. All right. So, why don't we do our normal, I'm gonna take them out of order. I'd like to take 7.2. Nate, can I have a motion? And if
Yes.
you want to combine, 0.2 and 0.3, that would be appreciated.
Yes, of course. How about 7.1 as well? Unless you wanted to, we're not going to end the meeting.
No.
All right, so I move that we review and sign September end of month reports and sign bills, payable warrants out of session, as well as schedule next Board of Water Commissioners meeting.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Todd Melanson, aye.
Nathan Madala, aye.
So we're going to schedule later, or do you want to schedule now?
Oh, well.
That's why I left that one off.
Oh, well, either way, we're not kicking people out. Posted.
When's our it's the second Monday of the month? Is that?
Correct.
The second Monday would be the 14th of November.
Nate?
No?
He's
Looking at my calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I could tell that.
Just so you know, Veterans Day is the Friday before.
Okay, I'm sorry. Say that one more time. What day? We're looking at?
Veterans Day is that
14th.
Friday before.
Yeah, Veterans Day is the Friday before, so the 14th is not a holiday.
No.
So,
All right. Yeah, that works.
all right. So I make a motion, we schedule the next Board of Water Commissioners meeting for November 14th.
I don't think you need a motion for that.
Okay, I think you're correct. All right. The motion's been made and seconded on reviewing and signing September end of month reports and bills payable out of session. Todd Melanson, aye.
Mr. Chairman, we already voted on that.
Oh my good lord.
You can
I
adjourn the meeting.
apologize. I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting at 10:17 on, are we still in the 20th, October 20th? Do I have a second?
I don't think you need to second that.
Well, if I
I
make
think
a motion, we
you,
have to make.
you're declaring that the meeting's adjourned,
Oh my God. I think my brain has stopped working, Nate. Oh
Right?
my.
right, Chess? Or do we?
Do we need a motion or did we just adjourn?
Yeah.
No, so you make a motion. It doesn't necessarily have to be second, but you both have to agree that you can adjourn. And I
We're
think
ending the
Right.
meeting.
I
All
think
right.
you're ending the meeting. So.